I had spent 3 years taking care of Brandon Lewis after he lost his sight. I never once imagined that the first thing he'd do upon regaining his vision would be to propose to Brittany Chase, the woman who had once humiliated him. I thought he must be mistaken, that he had confused her with someone else, until I overheard a conversation at a party. "Brandon, did you know it was the maid who's been taking care of you all these years?" a friend asked him. "I know." "Then why?" Brandon's tone was indifferent, almost casual. "Have you ever heard the saying? The first thing a blind man does when he regains his sight is throw away his cane. She's seen me at my worst, witnessed all my failures. That's why she can only ever be the cane I throw away." I stood silently at the door, listening to those words, my heart sinking. I didn't step inside. Instead, I turned away, handed in my resignation, and boarded a southbound train with nothing but my savings and the weight of 3 years of my life lost. "Are you sure you want to resign, Mrs. Lewis?" Brandon's mother asked, glancing down at the resignation letter on the table, her expression thoughtful. She hadn't expected this. Less than a month ago, I had been the woman who cared for her son so deeply. But now, everything had changed. When love fades, clinging to it is nothing but futile. I stood before her, nodding without hesitation. "I'm not getting any younger," I added, my voice steady. "My parents have been asking me to come back and visit them, and they want me to settle down and get married soon." It was a lie. My parents had passed away 3 years ago, and the so-called home I spoke of was nothing but an abandoned cabin, crumbling and left to decay. There was no real home for me anymore. "Mrs. Lewis glanced at me, her eyes scanning my worn-out clothes, my tired appearance, and perhaps a twinge of guilt crossed her heart. She sighed softly, then reached into a drawer and pulled out a check. "This is $200,000. Think of it as a token of my appreciation. Thank you for taking care of my son." I looked at the check, knowing there was no reason to refuse. It wasn't just gratitude. It was a way to sever the final connection between Brandon and me. By accepting it, everything between us would be erased. There would be no reason to look back. I had come from a forgotten town in the American South, nestled among thick pine forests and endless stretches of wilderness. The town was so small, it didn't even make it onto most maps. A handful of run-down houses, dusty dirt roads, and the ever-encroaching woods surrounded us. The only way out was a rickety old gravel road that would kick up clouds of red dust whenever a car passed, though that didn't happen often. There was no school in our town. To get an education, you had to ride a creaky old bus over bumpy roads for 15 miles to the nearest town. In our family, money was as rare as rain in August. There were 3 of us kids, but there was only enough for one to attend school. I wasn't the eldest, so I didn't bear the weight of the family's hopes. I wasn't the youngest either, spoiled with affection. I was the middle child, often overlooked, the one easiest to let go. In 8th grade, our class participated in a pen pal program with students from a big city up north. That letter felt like a tiny window to the outside world. I poured all my curiosity and longing into it, filling 2 whole pages with cramped handwriting brimming with questions. Are there really cars that can carry people for hundreds of miles? Do city kids have to walk as far as we do just to get to school? I never expected a reply. My cousin had spent some time in Atlanta, and she claims city folks didn't care about kids like me from the sticks. They carried themselves with an air of superiority, looking down on anyone with dust on their shoes. But a month later, a letter arrived. The envelope was crisp and clean, the handwriting neat and precise. Every one of my questions had been answered with patient detail. At the bottom was a simple signature, Brandon. Brandon. I whispered that name over and over, etching it into my heart. In class, I'd scribble it in the corners of my notebook, savoring the way it flowed, soft and rhythmic, like a stream slipping over smooth stones. That letter wasn't the last. We kept writing, sharing glimpses of our lives. He told me he was 2 years older, loved basketball and dogs, and hated practicing penmanship, which I found funny because his handwriting was always flawless. By the time I finished middle school, things at home had gotten worse. My parents decided only one of us could go to high school. To keep it fair, they drew lots, but as the middle child, I wasn't even given a chance to draw. I didn't protest. I just buried my face in a thin pillow and cried quietly. With no one to turn to, I poured all my heartbreak into a letter to Brandon. By then, I'd resigned myself to the idea of becoming a housemaid, another forgotten dream buried beneath the weight of reality. But then, a miracle happened. My teacher told me someone had offered to sponsor my high school education. I cried with joy, naively believing I'd been blessed by a kind stranger. Years later, when I was in college, I finally gathered the courage to ask my teacher who that generous person was. She smiled softly and said, almost like it was nothing, "It was Brandon." I froze. My heart pounded like it was trying to escape my chest. Brandon, the boy who talked to me about basketball, dogs, and answered all my childish questions, wasn't just a pen pal. He was the person who'd quietly changed the course of my life. When it came time to choose a university, I didn't hesitate. I applied to the one closest to Brandon's hometown. I told myself it was for better opportunities, for convenience, but deep down, I just wanted to find him, to tell him face to face, thank you, to let him know that his letters didn't just answer questions about the world, they saved a lonely, forgotten soul. Young hearts are easily stirred. As I exchanged letters with Brandon, my feelings for him grew alongside an overwhelming curiosity. What did he look like? I had imagined it countless times, the face behind the patient words, the boy who funded my education. Though only 2 years older, his letters carried a maturity that often felt beyond his age, though traces of youthful stubbornness peeked through in small, endearing ways. When I finally followed the address on one of his letters and found his home, nothing was as I had imagined. First, Brandon's family was wealthy, far wealthier than I had ever pictured. Second, Brandon had lost his sight in an accident. The timeline fit perfectly. It was during my senior year of high school, right when his letters had suddenly stopped. After the accident, Brandon spiraled, moody, volatile, and cloaked in darkness. He locked himself in his room, smashing things whenever his temper flared. At first, his mother, Mrs. Lewis, visited him every day, but even the deepest affection wears thin over time. His father, busy with children from other affairs, looked at Brandon's despair with growing indifference, as if contemplating whether to abandon him altogether. Eventually, Mrs. Lewis stopped coming. The household staff grew lazy, avoiding him altogether. Brandon's temper had become too unpredictable, too exhausting. Bit by bit, he was left behind, a discarded pawn. When I found out, I was furious. Seeing him like that, broken, abandoned, filled me with both sadness and rage. I started going to his house every day. I cleaned, cooked, and tended to his needs with gentle patience, coaxing him little by little out of his darkness. Mrs. Lewis, seeing that my care for Brandon was genuine, and perhaps knowing I was fresh out of college with no stable income, hired me as Brandon's personal maid. At first, Brandon resented my presence. He tried to scare me off, cruel tricks testing my patience, hoping to drive me away. But I didn't leave. I grew bolder with every setback, refusing to be frightened off. Then came that stormy day. The sky roared with thunder, rain lashing against the windows. I was late getting to his house, delayed by the wind and the flooded roads. Alone in the dark, the booming thunder dragged Brandon back to the memory of the accident that had stolen his sight. Terrified, he curled into a corner, trembling. When I finally found him, his face was ashen, his expression lost, like a stray puppy searching for home. I wrapped my arms around him, softly humming the lullaby my mother used to sing to my little sister. After that day, Brandon never pushed me away again, and so I stayed for 3 years. I poured my heart into caring for him. Brandon slowly regained his confidence, and his vision began to improve. 3 years of shared days, quiet companionship, and unspoken understanding, and with that, the feelings I'd tucked away since my youth blossomed. I even started to imagine a future with him. One evening, just before his vision returned, he stared blankly in my direction. His cloudy eyes filled with a fragile kind of hope. His voice was soft, tinged with a vulnerability easy to miss. "When my eyes heal, will you marry me?" His voice was tinged with a quiet plea, a desperation softened by a fragile thread of hope. I looked at him, seeing the face that no one could ever refuse, and without thinking, I nodded. Brandon's face lit up in an infectious smile, and before I knew it, he had swept me into his arms, spinning me around on the grass in joyous abandon. Later that evening, he did propose, but not to me. The day Brandon's bandages were removed after his surgery, I had been so exhausted from taking care of him that I dozed off on the bus. When I finally woke up, panic set in. I had missed my stop. I quickly hailed a cab and rushed to the hospital, my heart pounding as I prayed I wasn't too late. But when I arrived, I saw Brandon, beaming with joy as he embraced Brittany. He tenderly brushed a strand of hair away from her forehead, his eyes filled with warmth. Then, with a flourish, he pulled out the diamond ring and, with a deep sincerity in his voice, proposed. "Thank you for taking care of me so selflessly these past 3 years." Brittany's face momentarily betrayed her. There was a flicker of shock before she quickly masked it with her hands. Only she knew whether it was joy or the thrill of a lie she had just gotten away with. I stood frozen, convinced Brandon had mistaken her for me. Just as I was about to step forward to correct the misunderstanding, Mrs. Lewis stopped me, signaling for me to follow her out of the room. In the quiet hallway, she didn't waste any time. "Ashley, you have to realize that you and Brandon come from completely different worlds. If it weren't for his accident, you two would never have met." I wanted to argue, to protest, but the words stuck in my throat because she was right. If Brandon hadn't lost his sight, we would never have crossed paths in the first place. Mrs. Lewis continued, her voice cold and precise. "I don't enjoy breaking hearts. If Brandon realizes before the wedding that you're the woman he truly loves, I won't stop him. But if he doesn't, maybe it's just not meant to be. After all, given Brandon's situation, he needs someone who matches his status, someone who can secure his future." Her words left no room for rebuttal. I glanced back toward the hospital room where Brandon and Brittany stood, their faces glowing with happiness, looking every bit the perfect couple. My chest tightened, the ache unbearable. "Why, Brandon? After everything, why can't you even recognize my voice? I've told you my name so many times. I am Ashley K. Smith. Do you not remember? You could have mistaken anyone else, but why her? I'll never forget the first time I saw you, Brandon. You were on the ground, desperately groping around for your sunglasses that had fallen. And Brittany, she stepped on them, crushing them under her heel, towering over you with a smug grin. Look at you, Brandon. You're nothing but a dog at my feet, and now a blind dog at that. You really thought you were worthy of marrying me?" That was the moment you lost your dignity, humiliated in front of everyone. In the end, it only took a little pout and some tears from Brittany to her family. She marched straight to your house to break off the engagement, and Mr. Lewis had already made up his mind to let you go. Mrs. Lewis's face was filled with shame, but she too had no choice but to swallow her pride. How could you have forgotten all that, Brandon, when Mrs. Lewis and I returned to the hospital room? Brittany had already accepted the proposal. She looked at me with a smug satisfaction, her chin raised slightly as if she had just claimed victory. "Go peel me an apple," she demanded, her voice dripping with arrogance. It wasn't about the apple. It was a declaration. "Look at me. No matter how hard you tried, Brandon loves me." A wave of sadness and fury crashed over me. For a brief moment, I wanted to turn around and run, but then Brandon's voice cut through the fog of my thoughts. "And who's this?" he asked, glancing in my direction with a puzzled look. Mrs. Lewis didn't miss a beat. "Ashley, the personal maid I hired for you. Very diligent and responsible." Brandon nodded slightly, no suspicion in his eyes. Since you're the maid and Brittany wants an apple, go peel one for her. Just like that, as if I were nothing more than a stranger in his life, a nameless servant, as if the past 3 years had been nothing but a figment of my imagination. I stood frozen for a moment, then slowly picked up an apple and a knife from the bedside table. My fingers trembled slightly as I began to peel. Brittany watched me with smug delight, her voice turning sweet and syrupy as she leaned toward Brandon, giggling softly. Brandon gazed at her with warmth in his eyes, his smile gentle and full of affection. That look, it was unfamiliar and devastating. When I finished peeling the apple, I handed it to Brittany. She scrunched up her nose, inspecting the apple with thinly veiled disgust. "Brandon," she whined, "have her put on gloves and peel another one. I don't want to eat something her dirty hands have touched." Brandon, eager to please her, didn't hesitate. His face darkened slightly as he turned to me. "Can't you handle something as simple as peeling an apple properly?" I bit the inside of my cheek, fighting back the sting in my eyes. I nodded, my voice catching slightly. "I'm sorry, Miss Chase. I'll redo it." I put on gloves and peeled another apple, trying to steady my shaking hands. But when I handed it to her, she pouted again. "The peel is uneven. I don't eat apples with broken peels." So I picked up another apple and another. Each time she found a new reason to reject it. Too thick, too thin, not shiny enough. By the time I'd gone through every apple in the room, my hands were numb, my heart even more so. Finally, Brittany stretched lazily. "Forget it. I don't really feel like eating an apple anymore." I clenched my jaw so tightly I thought I might crack a tooth. I knew exactly why she was doing this. It was because of Brandon. Back when she'd humiliated him, I was the one who stood up for him time and time again, exposing her cruelty. Now that Brandon had his sight back, and with it his value in the family business, Brittany wanted to reclaim him. But I was in the way, the woman who had truly been by his side for 3 years, the one who'd picked him up piece by piece when no one else cared, was nothing more than an obstacle in her path. After Brandon was discharged from the hospital, the Chase family wasted no time. They met with Mrs. Lewis to finalize the wedding arrangements. The date was set for a weekend just 2 weeks away. 2 weeks. That was all the time I had left. The truth was, I didn't want to give up on him, but what I didn't realize was Brandon had given up on me long before I even knew it. At Brandon's engagement party, one of his friends kept shifting uncomfortably, clearly debating whether to speak up. But guilt has a way of gnawing at a person, and eventually it won. "Brandon," his friend said hesitantly, glancing around before leaning in. "You do know it was your personal maid, Ashley, who's been taking care of you all these years, right?" Brandon swirled the wine in his glass, unbothered. "I know." "Then why?" Brandon's tone was light, almost indifferent. "Have you ever heard the saying?" His friend looked puzzled. "What saying?" "The first thing a blind man does when he regains his sight is throw away his cane. She saw me at my lowest, my weakness, my failures. That's all she'll ever be, a cane I no longer need." I was standing just outside the door when I heard it. For a moment, I thought my legs might give out. Sadness surged through me, sharp and suffocating. The man I had adored for years, the one I thought I'd saved, had become the very knife carving wounds into my heart. I stood there for what felt like forever, long enough for my legs to go numb, my heart even more so. Staring at Brandon from afar, I felt something inside me shift, an invisible line dividing the man I had loved from the man standing in that room. Maybe my Brandon had died the year I first met him. I didn't stay for the party. I turned around, walked away, and handed Mrs. Lewis my resignation letter. I didn't have much to pack, just a single suitcase, everything I owned stuffed inside. I lied to Mrs. Lewis this time. I wasn't going back home. There was nothing to return to. My parents had been gone for years, and my childhood friends had long scattered, chasing lives of their own. I didn't know where I was going. I opened my phone, picked a random train heading south, and bought a ticket. Maybe I just wanted to see what the world looked like beyond the ruins of my heartbreak. When the train finally arrived, I stepped off and turned back for one last look at the city I was leaving behind. It looked the same as the day I arrived, but I wasn't. Some people come into your life like fleeting shadows, brief, weightless, destined to fade. In the end, no matter how tightly you hold on, they'll slip through your fingers, lost to the endless sea of faces. The train kept heading south. I didn't know where I was going, so I decided I'd get off wherever the train decided to stop. My first stop was Ruston, a place where the sky seemed impossibly blue, and the flowers bloomed with an energy I couldn't quite match. I tried to heal, piece by piece, smoothing over the scars left behind, but the harder I tried to forget, the more tightly the memories clung to me. One day, my phone buzzed with a message from an unfamiliar number. It was a video Brandon. He looked different, disheveled. There was a shadow of exhaustion etched into his face, something that hadn't been there before. The video started with one of his friends, half joking, half serious. "Your maid's gone. Why don't you go apologize? Just say you were joking." Brandon was silent for a moment, swirling the wine in his glass. Then he spoke, his voice casual, almost indifferent. "I wasn't joking. What's there to explain? Besides, why should I apologize? She's the one who left without saying anything. Where's the sense of responsibility in that? Who knows, maybe she's just playing hard to get." His friend laughed, eager to agree. "Yeah, she was obsessed with you. Bet she'll come crawling back in a few days. I mean, look how she cared for you when you were blind, like she couldn't live without you." Brandon chuckled, then shrugged nonchalantly. "Even if she's dead, I wouldn't go looking for her." The video ended with Brittany rushing into his arms, her laughter ringing in the background. I stared at the screen, frozen, a coldness spreading through me. The ice didn't touch my skin, it lodged deep in my heart. Even if she's dead, I wouldn't go looking for her. The man I had spent 3 years loving, the man I had cared for through the darkest, most broken moments of his life, I realized, wasn't the man I thought I knew. Maybe he had never truly shown me who he was. Maybe I had been a fool all along, spinning in circles, a clown in a show I didn't even know I was part of. I knew this was Brittany's doing. She wanted to gloat, to say, "See, even after everything, Brandon still chooses me. You were never anyone to him." I deleted the video without a second thought, my heart heavier than it had ever been. I stood by the river, letting the evening breeze wash over me, staring at the still water. My heart was burdened with an aching weight. How was I supposed to let go of someone I couldn't forget? But I knew I couldn't keep living like this, holding on to someone who no longer cared. I stood up, trying to shake off the aching feeling in my chest. I began walking along the lakeside, hoping that moving would help clear my mind. Suddenly, out of nowhere, I was yanked back with such force that I stumbled and fell hard onto the ground. "Don't do it!" a voice shouted above me. I blinked, startled, and looked up into the face of a young man. His black hair fell messily over his forehead, and his emerald green eyes were sharp, vivid with genuine concern. "Are you okay?" he asked softly, his gaze scanning me for injuries. I pushed myself up, brushing the dirt off my clothes. "I'm fine." He didn't look convinced. "If you're feeling overwhelmed, you can talk to me. Don't do anything drastic, okay?" There was something in his voice that calmed me, a kind of warmth I hadn't realized I needed. The world felt quieter in that moment, and I couldn't help but feel that maybe, just maybe, I was about to find something or someone that would help me heal. It took me a second to realize what he meant. I shook my head quickly. "Wait, no, I wasn't trying to jump into the river." His words caught in his throat, and his face flushed bright red. "Oh, I'm sorry, but I saw you standing there alone and—" He watched him stammer, his embarrassment making him fumble even more. "It's okay," I said with a small smile, amused despite myself. As I turned to leave, he hesitated, then awkwardly pulled out his phone and held it out to me. Can I have your number?" I raised an eyebrow. His face turned an even deeper shade of red. "Not like that," I'm worried, in case you, try again. I stared at him for a moment, then sighed, trying not to laugh. I told you I wasn't trying to kill myself. He scratched the back of his neck, clearly flustered. Right, sorry. I didn't mean that. He couldn't even finish his sentence, stumbling over his words, his face now a brilliant crimson. There was something ridiculously endearing about it. I tilted my head, teasing. Oh, I get it. You like me, don't you? His eyes widened in horror. No, not like that. Watching him stammer and fumble, cheeks burning, made something inside me ease for the first time in a long while. I didn't feel heavy. In the end, we exchanged numbers and names. His name was Jacob, a college student. He lived nearby and liked to go for night runs. It just so happened that tonight, on one of those runs, he saw me standing alone by the water and, in a panic, thought he was saving me from myself. After spending some time in Ruston, Jacob and I grew closer. What started as light teasing and casual jokes slowly revealed something deeper. I realized Jacob genuinely liked me, but we never acknowledged it. That fragile, unspoken thing sat between us like glass, thin and clear, just waiting to shatter. Friends often say the best way to forget an old, broken love is to start a new, healthy one, but it's not that simple. 3 years with Brandon wasn't a fleeting affair, not 3 weeks, not 3 days. It was years of my life, stitched into his thread by thread. I started to distance myself from Jacob, hoping he'd get the hint and walk away. But he didn't. I've never been someone who enjoys a restless life. After a while, I realized Ruston suited me just fine. The town's quiet charm wrapped around me like a soft blanket. So I rented a small shop and opened a flower store, Blissful Blooms. Jacob, now in his senior year of college, insisted on helping out at the shop, claiming it was for work study. I glanced at the luxury watch on his wrist more than once, but never bothered to call him out. Days passed quietly, like petals falling, soft, unnoticed, peaceful, until the phone rang one afternoon, breaking the fragile calm I'd built around myself. I was sorting orders, cradling the phone between my shoulder and ear. Hello, this is Blissful Blooms. How can I help you? We were low on roses, with lilies and daisies dwindling too. I mentally noted to restock soon, but the line remained silent. I waited, patient as ever. Hello? Are you looking to place an order? All I could hear was faint, steady breathing. Just as I was about to hang up, thinking it was some prank. Ashley. That voice. It hit me like a punch to the chest. Brandon. It had been nearly 3 months since I'd left his house. 3 months since I'd heard that voice. My pen froze mid-scribble. I swallowed hard, forcing my heart back into place. My voice was steady when I spoke, sharp edges hidden beneath polite indifference. Is this Mr. Lewis? What brings someone so important to call someone as insignificant as a maid? His breath hitched. I could almost hear it. His voice, rough and quiet, quieter now, carried an unfamiliar weight. Did you really quit? I heard from my mother you went back home to get married soon. I kept my tone light, unaffected. That's right. There was a pause, then softer, almost like a confession. I went to your hometown. You weren't there. I wasn't there because that home never existed. But I didn't say that. His words sounded small, fragile even, so different from the Brandon I remembered at the party, or the one Brittany had flaunted in that cruel video. Back then, he was arrogant, certain I'd come crawling back. He'd been so sure Ashley would never leave. He loves me too much. But 3 months had passed, no calls, no notes, no desperate apologies, and now he was unraveling. I stayed silent, letting the weight of his words hang between us. If you don't have any real reason for calling, Mr. Lewis, I'll hang up now. His composure cracked, irritation seeping through. I'm getting married next week. You'll come to the wedding, won't you? My breath hitched, a sharp sting in my chest. What is this? A final jab? An invitation? Or an insult? For a fleeting second, I felt the old ache. But then nothing. Just emptiness. Brandon wasn't worth it anymore. I didn't even have to fake my next words. Sorry. I can't make it. Why not? His voice quickened, a trace of panic. I smiled, even though he couldn't see it. Because I'm getting married too. I hung up the phone and exhaled deeply. The weight I'd carried for so long seemed to evaporate, as though I had just let go of a breath I had been holding far too long. That's when the shop's bell chimed. I turned, and there stood Jacob, framed in the doorway by the sunlight like a scene straight out of a painting. In his hand, he held a bouquet of roses, and his white shirt, sleeves casually rolled up, added to the effortless charm of the moment. My heart skipped, and for the first time in a long while, I felt something flutter inside me. After Brandon, I had convinced myself that love wasn't meant for me, at least not the kind that was real, the kind that didn't hurt. But maybe, just maybe, I had underestimated it. And myself. We cross paths with so many people in life. Why waste forever mourning those who weren't right for us? Jacob, unaware of the storm that raged inside me, stepped in like he always did, placing the flowers into a vase with his usual meticulous care, changing the water without hesitation. But this time, I didn't stand back. I reached forward, plucked a single rose from the bouquet, and twirled it in my fingers before looking up at him with a soft smile. Jacob, I said, feeling lighter than I had in years. Let's give this a try. That day, the flower shop was closed. Jacob practically dragged me out of bed, his infectious energy pushing through my grogginess. Today was our first official date since we'd started seeing each other, and Jacob wasn't treating it like just another outing. He was taking it seriously. So seriously, in fact, that he'd gone all out and dressed up. As he admired himself in the mirror, he wrapped his arms lazily around my waist, grinning at his reflection. Ashley, can I kiss you? He asked, his eyes glinting with playful confidence. I covered my mouth, mumbling, I haven't brushed my teeth. Undeterred, he leaned in and nuzzled the back of my hand. Then tell me, do you like me? I sighed, helpless against his persistence. Yes, I like you. A lot. Only then did he finally release me, satisfied by my answer. At the amusement park, Jacob's grip on my hand was firm as he studied the map, focusing intently as if we were about to embark on an expedition. After a few rides, he insisted I sit and rest while he went to grab some ice cream. I lazily flipped through the park map in my hands as I sat down, when a shadow suddenly fell over me. I looked up, expecting Jacob, ready to continue our plan for the Ferris wheel, but my words caught in my throat. It wasn't Jacob, it was Brandon. He looked disheveled, his unshaven face a stark contrast to the polished man I once knew. But when his eyes landed on me, they lit up with something that almost felt like relief. My smile faded instantly, and a chill ran through me. Brandon stepped forward as if to embrace me, but I instinctively took a step back, putting distance between us. The shock was evident in his eyes. He had never expected me, the girl who once hung on to his every word, to reject him. I glanced toward Jacob, who was a few feet away, juggling drinks and balloons with his usual carefree demeanor. Without thinking, I began to walk toward him, drawn to the comfort of his warmth. But before I could reach him, Brandon's hand shot out and gripped my arm. It wasn't tight, but there was desperation in his touch, an almost pleading quality to his voice as he whispered, "Please don't go." The words were fragile, as if he had practiced them 1,000 times, waiting for this moment. I didn't respond. Brandon continued, his words spilling out. Ashley, I know I was wrong. I was blinded by ambition, by what I thought I needed. I thought Brittany was the right choice, but I never loved her. I never even wanted her. It's always been you. Can't we go back to the way things were? I looked into his eyes I once dreamed would hold this very regret. I used to imagine this scene, Brandon begging me to come back, filled with remorse. I thought I'd feel victorious, that it would heal the ache he'd left behind, but standing here, I felt none of that. No satisfaction, no ache, just emptiness. Maybe even a hint of amusement at how small he suddenly seemed. I gently pulled my arm from his grasp, my voice calm and steady. Brandon, you were right all along. We were never the same. We come from different worlds. You're from a family of wealth and influence, and I'm just an ordinary girl with nothing to offer you but myself. I thought that was enough. I thought if I loved you hard enough, I could bridge that gap. I was wrong. I was foolish to think we had a future. I took a deep breath, my heart surprisingly light. But the thing is, Brandon, I've woken up from that dream. His face crumpled, eyes filling with panic, as he shook his head, trying to stop my words like they physically hurt him. No, Ashley, that's not true. Don't say that. He reached for me again, but Jacob arrived just then, stepping beside me and gently taking my hand. He didn't say a word, didn't interfere, but his fingers intertwined with mine, grounding me. I squeezed his hand softly, then turned back to Brandon, offering a small smile, one filled with genuine warmth, but no trace of the girl who once ached for him. Brandon, stop holding on to the past. We both deserve to move on. I reached into my bag and pulled out the check Mrs. Lewis had given me when I left. I cared for you because I wanted to. Part of it was gratitude, part of it something more. But this money was never mine to keep. I forced it into his hand, refusing to let him reject it. Thank you for being a part of my life. You changed it in ways both good and bad, but I'm done now. I turned to Jacob, my heart steady and sure. Let's go, sweetheart. Calling him that felt natural, easy, even. Behind me, I could feel Brandon deflate, like all the air had been sucked from his lungs. But I didn't look back. Not this time. When we got home, I told Jacob everything about the past 3 years with Brandon. I thought he'd be upset, maybe even angry, but he wasn't. Instead, he just pulled me into a tight hug, his voice trembling, thick with emotion. I gently patted his head, noticing the redness around his eyes. Are you crying? I asked, genuinely surprised. Jacob quickly looked away, his expression awkward. Who's crying? The wind got in my eyes. I bit back a smile, trying to keep a straight face, but when he saw me holding in my laughter, he sighed in defeat. Okay, fine, he admitted, his voice soft. He paused, then blurted out, I'm just heartbroken for you. You had to go through all that with that jerk. His words hit me harder than I expected. Heartbroken for me. No one had ever said that to me before. Not Brandon, not my family. Growing up in a household where survival was the priority, things like love and tenderness felt like luxuries we couldn't afford. My chest tightened, and before I knew it, my eyes filled with tears. Jacob panicked immediately, fumbling for tissues and dabbing at my face with all the grace of someone completely out of their depth. Oh no, don't cry. Did I say something wrong? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. His frantic, clumsy attempts to comfort me were so ridiculous that I burst out laughing through my tears. Seeing me laugh, Jacob relaxed and chuckled too, rubbing the back of his neck sheepishly. Later we lay in bed, his arms wrapped around me. Jacob, who usually fell asleep the moment his head hit the pillow, was wide awake, his uneven breathing and restless heartbeat making it impossible for me to sleep. I opened my eyes and whispered, "What's wrong?" His emerald eyes sparkled in the dim light, nervous yet filled with warmth. "Ashley," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "You called me sweetheart today." I nodded slightly, not sure where this was going. His grip on my arm tightened, urgency in his voice. Does this mean you've truly accepted me? I know we've moved fast, and I don't want to pressure you, but I need to be honest. I love you. I've loved you since the moment I first saw you, and I want to spend my life with you. So, Ashley, will you marry me? My heart raced as his words washed over me, stirring emotions I hadn't anticipated. I'd planned to tease him, to say, I'll think about it. But when I opened my mouth, the words that came out were simple, clear, and certain. I will. And just like that, in that instant, I knew my heart had found its place, its home. The morning of our wedding, I was yanked out of bed at 8 a.m. and thrown into the whirlwind of makeup artists, hairstylists, and endless layers of tulle and satin. Staring at my reflection in the mirror, I barely recognized the woman looking back at me. Radiant, glowing, beautiful in a way that almost felt like a dream. It was hard to believe that this was actually me. As I was being transformed, my phone buzzed. Without thinking, I picked it up. It was Brandon's friend, his voice frantic, filled with panic. Ashley, where are you? Can you come over? Brandon's not doing well. He's on the verge of a breakdown. I froze. My fingers tightened around the phone. For a moment, I considered hanging up, but he rushed to fill the silence, his words tumbling out. Did you know, back in college, after a huge fight with his parents, they cut him off financially, but he still sent you money for your tuition? He worked 2 jobs, coding during the day, waiting tables at night, all for you, Ashley. He's always loved you. I hadn't known. I'd always assumed Brandon's money came from his wealthy family, never realizing there was more to the story. I stayed silent, not because I didn't care, but because I didn't know how to feel. Brandon's friend seemed to sense the hesitation in my silence and pushed further. Think about all the good he did for you, the sacrifices he made. Yes, Brandon had been good to me once, but if he loved me so much, how did he become the person who shattered my heart without a second thought? People change, don't they? I glanced across the room, and there stood Jacob, dressed in his wedding suit, a soft smile playing on his lips as he waited for me. This was my future. My heart felt lighter than it had in years. I took a breath, steadying my voice. I'm sorry, but you shouldn't be calling me. You should be looking for a therapist for him. We're done. Whatever we had is over. Please don't contact me again. I ended the call, blocked the number, and turned my phone off. Today wasn't about Brandon. It was about me, about Jacob, and the life we were about to build together. I smoothed down my dress, lifted my chin, and walked toward the man waiting for me, ready to embrace the most important day of my life. Have you ever had to choose between a painful past and a promising future? And how did you know when it was time to move on? Ashley spent years caring for Brandon, believing their bond would lead to something more. But when Brandon regains his sight and proposes to Brittany, the woman who once humiliated him, Ashley's world shatters. Despite all her sacrifices and deep feelings for him, Brandon's rejection forces Ashley to walk away. In the aftermath, she finds solace in Ruston, where she meets Jacob, a man who offers her a love she never thought she deserved. As Ashley moves on and builds a life with Jacob, Brandon's attempt to rekindle their past comes too late, and Ashley finally chooses her own happiness over the man who once held her heart. From the perspective of self-respect and growth, Ashley's decision to leave Brandon behind is not just an act of walking away from him, but a choice to reclaim her own dignity. Brandon, blinded by his past, failed to see the woman who had been by his side, offering unwavering care and love through his darkest times. Yet the moment he regained his sight, he chose to toss aside the very person who had been his support. Ashley's departure symbolizes her understanding that love should not be a one-sided effort, nor should it be tied to someone who cannot see her worth. By embracing Jacob and rejecting Brandon's call, Ashley reclaims her power. She refuses to remain in a past where she was treated as disposable. Her journey teaches us that love must be mutual, and when it's not, it's okay to let go for the sake of one's own happiness. Have you ever been in a relationship where you gave everything, only to be discarded when the other person had what they wanted? How did you move forward from that? What do you think of Ashley's decision to walk away from Brandon, even after everything she had sacrificed for him? Do you think she made the right choice? Or is there more to the story? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Let's discuss the power of letting go and embracing the future, no matter how painful it may seem at first.
Eli, this house is my father's dream, I say, my voice steady despite the storm in my heart. You can't just claim it because we're married. My husband's eyes narrow, his charm evaporating like mist in the morning sun. Clara, don't be naive. What's yours is mine now. That's how marriage works. I stand in the grand foyer of my childhood home, surrounded by memories and the echoes of my father's laughter. The polished wood beneath my feet seems to whisper, reminding me of the countless times Dad taught me about integrity and the value of hard work.
No, Eli.
That's not how this works, I counter, crossing my arms. My father left this estate to me for a reason. It's not just property, it's a legacy. Eli's lips curl into a sneer. A legacy? It's a gold mine, Clara. Do you have any idea what this place is worth? My name is Clara, and I'm about to lose everything I've ever loved to the man I thought I could trust. I take a deep breath, steeling myself against Eli's piercing gaze. Of course I know what it's worth. That's precisely why I can't let you take control. Take control? Eli scoffs, running a hand through his perfectly styled hair. I'm your husband. We're supposed to share everything.
Share, yes.
Hand over, no. I move towards the grand staircase, my fingers trailing along the intricate banister. This house, this land, it's more than just assets, Eli. It's my history, my future. Eli follows, his footsteps heavy with frustration. Your future? Clara, wake up. We could sell this place and live like royalty. Why cling to some dusty old memories when we could have the world? I spin to face him, anger flaring in my chest. Because those dusty old memories are what made me who I am. This estate isn't just bricks and mortar, it's the embodiment of everything my father stood for. Your father? Eli spits the word like it's poison. Always your father. When are you going to start living for yourself, Clara? For us. I am living for myself, I retort. And right now that means protecting what's mine. Eli's face darkens, a storm brewing behind his eyes. What's yours? I thought we were a team, Clara. Or was that just convenient when you needed me? His words sting, but I refuse to let it show. We are a team, Eli. But that doesn't mean I have to sacrifice everything I believe in. Believe in? He laughs, the sound harsh and mocking. What you believe in is holding us back. Think of the opportunities we're missing. I shake my head, disappointment washing over me. The only opportunity one sees right now is the chance to stand up for what's right. Eli steps closer, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. And what if standing up for what's right costs you everything? A chill runs down my spine, but I stand my ground. Then at least I'll know I honored my father's memory. Your father is dead, Clara. Eli snaps. It's time to let go of the past and embrace our future. The words hit me like a physical blow. I stumble back, gripping the banister for support. How dare you? I breathe, shock giving way to fury. How dare you use my grief against me? Eli's expression softens, but his eyes remain cold. I'm not using anything against you, Clara. I'm trying to help you see reason. Reason? I laugh bitterly. There's nothing reasonable about what you're asking. I'm asking you to trust me, Eli pleads, reaching for my hand. I pull away, and hurt flashes across his face. To believe in our partnership. Partnership? I echo. A partnership is built on mutual respect, Eli. Not manipulation. He flinches at the accusation. I'm not manipulating you, Clara. I'm trying to secure our future. Our future. I repeat, the words tasting sour. And what about my past? My heritage? Does that mean nothing to you? Eli's jaw clenches. Of course it means something. But we can't live in the past forever. I'm not living in the past, I argue. I'm honoring it while building something new, something my father would be proud of. And what about me? Eli demands. Don't you want me to be proud of you too? The question hangs in the air between us, heavy with unspoken tensions. I take a deep breath, searching for the right words. Eli, I begin, my voice softer now. I want us to build a life together that we can both be proud of. But that doesn't mean erasing who I am or where I came from. He shakes his head, frustration etched into every line of his face. I'm not asking you to erase anything, Clara. I'm asking you to evolve.
Evolve.
I repeat, incredulous. By selling off my family's legacy? By embracing new possibilities, Eli counters. Think of what we could do with that kind of money, Clara. The life we could have. I close my eyes, suddenly weary. The life we have is already beautiful, Eli. Why isn't it enough for you? When I open my eyes again, I see something flicker across Eli's face, something that looks suspiciously like guilt. But it's gone in an instant, replaced by his usual charming smile. Of course it's enough, he says smoothly. I just want to give you the world, Clara. Is that so wrong? I study him, trying to reconcile the man I married with the stranger standing before me now. The world isn't what I want, Eli. I just want honesty, respect, and love. Eli's smile falters. You have all of that, Clara. Can't you see how much I love you? But as I look into his eyes, searching for the warmth I once knew, I realize with a sinking heart that I'm not sure I can see it anymore. And in that moment, I know that the battle for my father's legacy and my own future has only just begun. The doorbell chimes, its melodic tone a stark contrast to the tension lingering in the air. I take a deep breath, steeling myself for what's to come. Aunt Doris is here. Clara, darling. Doris exclaims as I open the door, her voice dripping with false sweetness. How lovely to see you. I force a smile. Hello, Aunt Doris. Please come in. Eli's mother sweeps past me, her perfume leaving a cloying trail. Her eyes dart around the foyer, assessing every detail with barely concealed greed. My, she murmurs, running a manicured finger along an antique side table. This place is even more magnificent than I remembered. You must be so proud to call a home. I am, I reply, my voice tight. It means everything to me. Doris turns, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. Of course it does, dear. Family legacies are so important. Speaking of which, where's my Eli? As if on cue, Eli appears at the top of the stairs. Mother, he greets, descending to embrace her. What a surprise. Oh, I was just in the neighborhood. Doris lies smoothly. I thought I'd pop in and see how you two lovebirds are settling into this grand estate. I catch Eli's eye, silently communicating my discomfort. He gives an almost imperceptible nod before guiding his mother to the living room. Can I get you something to drink, Aunt Doris? I offer, desperately seeking a moment alone. Tea would be lovely, dear. Thank you. In the kitchen, I lean against the counter, trying to calm my racing heart. The kettle whistles, startling me back to reality. As I prepare the tea tray, I can hear muffled voices from the living room. Curiosity gets the better of me, and I inch closer to the door. Can't believe she's being so stubborn, Doris is saying. Doesn't she understand what an opportunity this is for both of you? Eli's response is too low for me to make out, but Doris continues undeterred. You need to be more assertive, Eli. This house, this land, it's as much yours as it is hers now. You have every right to benefit from it. My hands shake as I set the cups on the tray. Benefit from it? Is that all they see when they look at my family's legacy? I compose myself and return to the living room, the tea tray a flimsy shield against Doris's scrutiny. Thank you, Clara, she says, accepting a cup. Now, tell me, have you and Eli discussed your plans for this place? It must be quite a burden to maintain. I settle into an armchair, my back straight. It's not a burden, Aunt Doris. It's a privilege. Doris tuts sympathetically. Of course, dear. But surely you must see the potential here. Why, with the right investments, you and Eli could turn this into quite the profitable venture. That's not what my father intended for this estate, I reply, my tone sharper than I intended. Doris's eyes narrow slightly. Your father, God rest his soul, couldn't have foreseen the opportunities available today. Times change, Clara. We must adapt. I feel Eli's gaze on me, waiting for my response. I take a sip of tea to buy time, the familiar taste grounding me. I appreciate your concern, Aunt Doris. I begin carefully. But this estate isn't just a financial asset. It's a part of our family history, a testament to my father's hard work and vision. I intend to honor that. Doris sets her cup down with a clatter.
Honor?
My dear, the greatest honor you could do your father is to build upon what he started. To let it stagnate out of some misplaced sense of duty is, well, it's selfish, really. The word hits me like a slap. Selfish. I repeat, incredulous. Mother, Eli interjects, his tone warning. But Doris is on a roll. Yes, selfish, she continues. You're not just denying yourself and Eli a chance at true prosperity. You're denying your entire family the benefits this estate could provide. Is that what your father would have wanted? I stand abruptly, my tea sloshing dangerously. My father would have wanted his legacy respected, not exploited. And with all due respect, Aunt Doris, you didn't know him well enough to speculate on his wishes. The room falls silent, the tension palpable. Eli clears his throat, clearly uncomfortable. Perhaps we should change the subject, he suggests weakly. Doris's lips thin into a tight smile. Perhaps you're right, darling. I can see we've touched a nerve. I only hope, Clara, that you'll give some thought to what I've said. Family should come first, after all. I bite back a retort, knowing it would only escalate the situation. Instead, I excuse myself, citing a need to check on dinner preparations. In the kitchen, I grip the edge of the sink, my knuckles white. The nerve of that woman, coming into my home and presuming to know what's best for my family's legacy. And Eli, why didn't he defend me? As if summoned by my thoughts, Eli appears in the doorway. Clara, he begins, his voice low. I'm sorry about my mother. You know how she can be. I turn to face him, my resolve hardening. Do I, Eli? Because lately, I'm not sure I know how anyone in this family can be. He reaches for me, but I step back. Clara, please.
Don't let her get to you.
She means well. Does she? I challenge. Or does she just want what's best for you, regardless of what it costs me? Eli's expression darkens. That's not fair. We're in this together, remember? I shake my head, suddenly weary. Are we, Eli? Because from where I'm standing, it feels like I'm fighting this battle alone. As I brush past him to return to our guests, I can't shake the feeling that this is just the beginning of a much larger war. And I'm not sure I'm prepared for the casualties it might bring. The familiar chime of the cafe door brings a smile to my face as I spot Gwen waving from our usual corner booth. It's been weeks since we've caught up, and the sight of my oldest friend is like a balm to my frayed nerves. Clara, Gwen exclaims, pulling me into a warm hug. God, it's good to see you. You look tired. I laugh weakly as we slide into the booth. That obvious, huh? Gwen's eyes narrow with concern.
Spill it, sister.
What's going on? As the waitress brings our usual orders, a latte for me, chai for Gwen, I find myself pouring out everything. The arguments with Eli and Doris's visit, the mounting pressure to sell the estate. Gwen listens intently, her brow furrowing with each new revelation. Clara, she says finally, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. You know I love you, so I'm going to be blunt. What the hell are you doing? I blink, taken aback. What do you mean? Gwen leans forward, her voice low and intense. I mean, why are you letting these people walk all over you? The Clara I grew up with would never have stood for this nonsense. Her words hit me like a splash of cold water. I'm not. I'm trying to keep the peace. Keep the peace. Gwen scoffs. At what cost? Your integrity? Your father's legacy? I flinch at the mention of my father, memories flooding back. Gwen's expression softens. Do you remember, she says gently, That summer when old Mr. Granger tried to buy out your dad's orchard. I nod, a ghost of a smile tugging at my lips. Dad was so angry. Said Granger could offer him the moon, but that land wasn't for sale at any price. Gwen grins.
Exactly.
And do you remember what he told us when we asked why? The memory washes over me, clear as day. I can almost hear my father's voice, strong and sure. He said, "Girls, there are some things in this world more valuable than money. Honor, integrity, the land beneath your feet. Never let anyone convince you to trade those for a quick buck." That's right, Gwen nods. And he didn't just talk the talk, Clara. He lived it. Every day. I feel tears prickling at the corners of my eyes. I know. God, I miss him so much. Gwen reaches out again, her grip firm and reassuring. He's still with you, Clara. In that house, in that land, and in everything he taught you. Don't let Eli or anyone else make you forget that. Her words ignite something in me, a spark of the old fire I'd almost forgotten. You're right, I say, straightening my shoulders. I've been so caught up in trying to keep everyone happy, I've lost sight of what really matters. That's my girl, Gwen grins. So, what are you going to do about it? I take a deep breath, feeling more centered than I have in weeks. First, I'm going to have a long, honest talk with Eli. No more tiptoeing around the issue. If he can't respect my decision about the estate, then, well, we'll have to figure out where we go from there. Gwen nods approvingly. And Aunt Doris? I can't help but chuckle. Oh, I think it's high time Aunt Doris and I had a little heart-to-heart as well. She needs to understand that her manipulation tactics won't work on me anymore. That's the Clara I know and love, Gwen beams. Just remember, you're not alone in this. I've got your back, always. As we finish our drinks and prepare to leave, I feel a weight lifting from my shoulders. The challenges ahead are still daunting, but with Gwen's support and the memory of my father's strength, I feel ready to face them head-on. Outside the cafe, Gwen pulls me into another hug. Promise me you'll call if you need anything, okay? Day or night. I nod, feeling a lump in my throat. I promise.
Thank you, Gwen.
I don't know what I'd do without you. As I watch her walk away, I'm struck by a memory of us as children, running through the orchard, laughing and carefree. We've come so far since then, faced so many challenges, but that core of friendship and shared values has never wavered. On the drive home, I find myself taking the long route, past the old orchard my father fought so hard to keep. The trees stand tall and proud, a living testament to his vision and determination. I pull over, drawn by an impulse I can't quite name. The scent of apples and earth fills my lungs as I walk between the rows of trees. I close my eyes, letting the familiar sounds and smells wash over me. In that moment, I can almost feel my father's presence, his quiet strength and unwavering integrity. I won't let you down, Dad, I whisper to the wind. I promise. As I drive the final stretch home, my resolve hardens. The estate isn't just a piece of property, it's a symbol of everything my father stood for, everything he taught me to value. And I'll be damned if I let anyone take that away. Pulling into the driveway, I see Eli's car already parked. My heart races, but not with anxiety this time. No, this is the thrill of determination, of knowing I'm about to take a stand. It's time to fight for what's right, for my father's legacy, and for my own future. And this time, I won't back down. The annual family barbecue at the estate was in full swing, the air filled with laughter, the scent of grilled food, and an undercurrent of tension I couldn't shake. I watched from the patio as Eli charmed a group of distant relatives, his easy smile never quite reaching his eyes. Clara, dear. My mother's voice cut through my thoughts. Come help me with the salads, won't you? Grateful for the distraction, I followed her into the kitchen. As we worked side by side, I could feel her concerned gaze. Is everything all right, sweetheart? She asked softly. You seem distracted. I forced a smile. I'm fine, Mom. Just a lot on my mind. She nodded, unconvinced. You know you can talk to me about anything, right? Your father, and I always wanted this place to be a source of joy for you, not stress. The mention of Dad sent a pang through my heart. I know, Mom. I'm trying to honor that, I really am. Before she could press further, Cousin Ben burst into the kitchen, his face flushed with excitement and probably a bit too much fear. Clara, there you are, he exclaimed. You won't believe what I just heard. I exchanged a wary glance with my mother. Ben had always been a bit of a loose cannon, prone to gossip and exaggeration. What is it, Ben? I asked, bracing myself. He leaned in conspiratorially. I was talking to old Mr. Jameson, the real estate guy. He says this place could be worth a fortune. Like millions. I felt the blood drain from my face. Ben, that's not. But he was already barreling on. Can you imagine? With that kind of money, you and Eli could do anything. Travel the world, start a business, buy a yacht. Ben, my mother interjected sharply. That's quite enough. The value of this estate is a private family matter. But the damage was done. Through the kitchen window, I could see Eli's head snap up, his eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that made my stomach churn. I'm sorry, Ben mumbled, finally sensing the tension. I just thought it was exciting news. I forced a tight smile. It's okay, Ben. Just maybe keep that information to yourself from now on, all right? As Ben shuffled out, looking chastened, I turned to my mother. Mom, She held up a hand, her expression grave. Clara, listen to me. Your father and I always knew the potential value of this land. But we also knew its true worth couldn't be measured in dollars. Whatever you decide to do, remember that. I nodded, fighting back tears. I will, Mom. I promise. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur. I could feel Eli's eyes on me constantly, his charm dialed up to 11 as he worked the crowd. I did my best to avoid him, making small talk with relatives and trying to ignore the growing knot of dread in my stomach. As the sun began to set and guests started to leave, I found myself cornered by Eli near the old oak tree where my father used to hang our swing. So, he said, his voice low and intense. Millions, huh? I steeled myself, meeting his gaze. It's just speculation, Eli. And even if it's true, it doesn't change anything. His eyes flashed with something dangerous. Doesn't change anything? Clara, do you hear yourself? This could be our ticket to the life we've always dreamed of. The life you've dreamed of, maybe, I shot back. This estate is already my dream, Eli. It's my home, my heritage. I won't sell it off for any price. Eli's charming facade cracked, revealing a glimpse of the anger simmering beneath. You're being selfish, Clara. Think of what we could do with that kind of money. Selfish. I repeated, incredulous. For wanting to honor my father's legacy? For valuing something beyond its price tag? He grabbed my arm, his grip tight. Your father is gone, Clara. It's time to think about our future. I wrenched away from him, my voice shaking with fury. Our future? The only future I see right now is one where you care more about money than about me or my family's wishes. A twig snapped nearby, and we both turned to see Cousin Ben standing there, his eyes wide with shock. I'm sorry, he stammered. I didn't mean to interrupt. I'll just. As he hurried away, I could feel the weight of what had just happened settling over me. The secret was out, and with it, any pretense of harmony in my marriage. Eli's expression hardened. This isn't over, Clara. We need to talk about this rationally, without all this emotional baggage clouding your judgment. I watched him stalk away, my heart pounding. In that moment, I realized that the battle for my father's legacy and my own future had just escalated beyond anything I'd imagined. As the last of the guests departed, I found myself standing alone on the porch, looking out over the land that had been in my family for generations. The weight of responsibility pressed down on me, but with it came a surge of determination. I pulled out my phone, my fingers hovering over Gwen's number. I needed an ally, someone who understood what this place meant to me. As I hit dial, I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the fight ahead. Whatever came next, I knew one thing for certain. I would not let my father's dream die without a fight. The true value of this estate couldn't be measured in dollars, and it was time for Eli and everyone else to understand that once and for all. The tension in the house was palpable, a living thing that seemed to pulse through the walls. I sat at the kitchen table, a cup of untouched coffee growing cold before me, as I listened to Eli's footsteps pacing in his study upstairs. It had been 3 days since the family barbecue, 3 days of stilted conversations and loaded silences. I knew Eli was planning something. I could see it in the furtive glances he cast my way, in the hushed phone calls that abruptly ended when I entered a room. A soft knock at the back door startled me from my thoughts. I opened it to find Gwen, her face etched with concern. "Hey," she said softly, pulling me into a hug. "I came as soon as I could. How are you holding up?" I let out a shaky breath. "Honestly, I feel like I'm living in a powder keg, just waiting for the spark." Gwen squeezed my hand. "You're stronger than you know, Clara. Remember that." As we settled at the kitchen table, I filled her in on the events since our last meeting. Gwen listened intently, her brow furrowing deeper with each revelation. "Clara," she said finally, her voice low and urgent. "You need to be prepared. Eli's not going to let this go easily." Before I could respond, Eli's voice rang out from the doorway. "Well, isn't this cozy?" I turned to see him leaning against the frame, his charm dialed up to 11 but his eyes cold and calculating. "Eli," I started, but he cut me off with a wave of his hand. "No need for explanations, darling. I'm glad you have your friend here for support. You're going to need it." With that cryptic statement, he strode into the room, dropping a thick manila envelope on the table between us. "What's this?" I asked, my heart racing. Eli's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Just some paperwork I think you'll find interesting. Why don't you take a look?" With trembling hands, I opened the envelope. Inside were legal documents, property assessments, and a proposal for dividing the estate's assets. "Eli," I breathed, shock giving way to anger. "What have you done?" He shrugged, the picture of nonchalance. "Nothing yet, Clara. But I think it's time we had a serious discussion about our future. Our shared future." Gwen stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "I think I should go." "No," I said, gripping her arm. "Please stay." Eli's eyes narrowed. "This is between my wife and me. Your wife," I spat, finding my voice, "is telling you that Gwen stays. Now explain yourself, Eli. What is all this?" He sighed dramatically, as if I were a child failing to grasp a simple concept. "It's an opportunity, Clara. A chance for us to secure our future, to build something truly remarkable. By selling off my family's legacy?" I countered, my voice rising. "By betraying everything my father worked for?" Eli's facade cracked, revealing a glimpse of the frustration beneath. "Your father is gone, Clara. How long are you going to let a dead man's wishes dictate our lives?" The words hit me like a physical blow. I recoiled, tears stinging my eyes. "How dare you?" I whispered. Gwen stepped forward, her voice sharp. "I think you should leave, Eli.
Now."
For a moment, I thought he might argue, but then he straightened, smoothing his expression back into that practiced charm. "Of course," he said smoothly. "I'll give you some time to look over the documents. But Clara, we will need to discuss this. Soon." As the door closed behind him, I collapsed into my chair, my whole body shaking. Gwen knelt beside me, her hand on my arm. "Clara, listen to me. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. This is your legacy, your decision." I nodded, trying to steady my breathing. "I know. But Eli, I never thought he'd go this far." "People show their true colors when money's involved," Gwen said grimly. "The question is, what are you going to do about it?" I looked down at the papers scattered across the table, each one a potential nail in the coffin of my father's dream. Then my eyes fell on a framed photo on the wall, my father and me, standing proud in front of the estate on the day he officially made me its heir. Something inside me hardened, a resolve I didn't know I possessed rising to the surface. "I'm going to fight," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. "For my father's legacy, for this land, and for myself." Gwen squeezed my hand, a fierce pride in her eyes. "That's my girl. And you won't be fighting alone." As we began to pore over the documents, formulating a plan, I felt a strange mix of dread and determination. The battle lines had been drawn, and there was no going back. But with Gwen by my side and my father's memory to guide me, I knew I had a chance. Whatever Eli had planned, whatever manipulations he had up his sleeve, I would face them head on. This estate wasn't just property, it was my heritage, my home, and my future. And I would defend it with everything I had. The sun was setting outside, casting long shadows across the kitchen. As Gwen and I worked, I could almost feel my father's presence, his quiet strength bolstering my resolve. The road ahead would be difficult, fraught with emotional and legal battles. But in that moment, I knew with absolute certainty that I was on the right path. Let Eli bring his lawyers and his schemes. I had something far more powerful on my side, the truth and the unshakable conviction that some things were worth fighting for, no matter the cost. The morning sun filtered through the study windows, casting long shadows across the room. I stood before my father's old desk, a fortress of documents and legal papers spread before me. My hands trembled slightly as I picked up the final piece of evidence, the original deed to the estate, my name clearly listed as the sole inheritor. A soft knock at the door broke my concentration. "Clara," my mother's voice called. "He's here." I took a deep breath, steeling myself. "Send him in, Mom." Eli strode into the room, his usual charm replaced by a barely concealed agitation. "Clara, darling, I hope you've had time to consider my proposal. I really think—" "Sit down, Eli," I interrupted, my voice steadier than I felt. "We need to talk." His eyes narrowed as he took in the papers on the desk. "What's all this?" "Evidence," I said simply. "Proof that this estate, every inch of it, belongs solely to me." Eli's facade cracked, a flicker of panic crossing his face before he regained his composure. "Now, Clara, let's not be hasty.
We're married.
What's yours is mine, remember?" "That's not how it works, Eli," I countered, sliding the deed across the desk. "My father made sure of that. This estate was left to me and me alone." Eli's charm evaporated entirely, replaced by a cold fury I'd never seen before. "You can't do this to me, Clara. I've invested years in this marriage, in this family. I deserve a piece of the pie." "Invested?" I repeated, incredulous. "Is that what you call it? Manipulating me, pressuring me to sell my heritage?" He stood abruptly, looming over the desk. "Don't be naive. This isn't about heritage or legacy. It's about money, pure and simple. And I want what's owed to me." "Owed to you?" I shot back, standing my ground. "You're not owed anything, Eli. This estate was never yours to claim." Eli's hand slammed down on the desk, scattering papers. "Damn it, Clara. Do you have any idea what I've given up for you? The opportunities I've passed on, thinking we'd cash in on this gold mine?" The truth of his words hit me like a physical blow. "So, that's all this was to you? A long con?" "Don't be so dramatic," he sneered. "I loved you, Clara. I still do. But love doesn't pay the bills or secure our future." I shook my head, a strange calm settling over me.
No, Eli.
"You never loved me. You loved the idea of what I could give you." His expression darkened. "You ungrateful little—" "That's enough." My mother's voice cut through the tension like a knife. She stood in the doorway, her eyes blazing with a fury I'd never seen before. "I think you should leave now, Eli." Eli's gaze darted between us, calculating. "This isn't over, Clara. You can't just cut me out." "Actually, I can," I said, my voice steady. "And I will. My lawyer will be in touch about the divorce proceedings." "Divorce?" Eli sputtered. "You can't be serious." "I've never been more serious in my life," I replied. "Now, please leave my house." For a moment, I thought he might argue further. But something in my expression must have convinced him of my resolve. With a final, venomous glare, he stormed out of the study. As the front door slammed shut, I felt my knees give way. My mother was at my side in an instant, her arms wrapping around me. "Oh, sweetheart," she murmured. "I'm so proud of you." I clung to her, tears finally spilling over. "I can't believe I was so blind, Mom. How did I not see who he really was?" She stroked my hair, her voice gentle. Love can make fools of us all, Clara. But you saw the truth when it mattered most. Your father would be so proud. At the mention of Dad, a fresh wave of emotion washed over me. I miss him so much, Mom. I wish he was here. He is here, darling, she said, gesturing to the room around us. In every board and beam of this house, in every acre of this land. And in you, Clara. You're so much like him, strong, principled, and brave. I wiped my eyes, drawing strength from her words. What do I do now, Mom? She smiled, a fierce pride in her eyes. Now, my dear, we fight. Eli won't give up easily, but neither will we. This estate is your birthright, and we'll defend it with everything we have. As we began to gather the scattered papers, a plan forming between us, I felt a shift inside me. The fear and doubt that had plagued me for so long were giving way to a steely determination. Eli had shown his true colors, and in doing so, he'd awakened something in me, a strength I'd forgotten I possessed. This confrontation wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of a battle for my father's legacy and my own future. Looking out over the estate grounds, bathed in the warm afternoon light, I made a silent vow. I would honor my father's memory, protect this land, and build a future that would make him proud. Eli and his greed were no match for the power of family, integrity, and love. The road ahead would be challenging, fraught with legal battles and emotional turmoil. But for the first time in years, I felt truly alive, ready to face whatever came my way. This was my home, my heritage, and my fight, and I intended to win. The tension in the air was palpable as I stood in the living room, facing Eli. Outside, rain lashed against the windows, mirroring the storm brewing between us. We'd been locked in a bitter legal battle for weeks, but tonight, something felt different. The facade was crumbling. Why are you doing this, Clara? Eli's voice was raw, stripped of its usual charm. Why can't you see that I'm trying to secure our future? I shook my head, a sad smile playing on my lips. Our future? Or yours, Eli? His eyes flashed dangerously. What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm done pretending, I said, my voice steady despite the trembling in my hands. I want the truth, Eli. All of it. No more games, no more manipulation. For a moment, I thought he might maintain the charade. But then something in him seemed to break. He sank onto the couch, his head in his hands. You want the truth? He said, his voice muffled. The truth is, I never thought I'd be good enough for you, Clara. For this life. I blinked, taken aback by the sudden vulnerability. What are you talking about? Eli looked up, his eyes red-rimmed. Look at this place, Clara. Look at your family's legacy. I'm just a guy from the wrong side of the tracks who got lucky enough to marry you. I thought if I could prove my worth, if I could turn this estate into something even greater, maybe I'd finally belong. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. Eli, I know, he cut me off. You never made me feel less than, but I did. Every day, surrounded by all this history, all this wealth, I felt like an imposter. And then I started to resent it. Resent you. I sank into the armchair across from him, my mind reeling. So all of this, the pressure to sell, the legal battle, it was all because you felt inadequate? Eli laughed bitterly. Pathetic, isn't it? I convinced myself that if I could turn this place into a gold mine, I'd finally be worthy of you, of your family's name. Oh, Eli, I sighed, a mix of emotions swirling inside me. Why didn't you just talk to me? He shrugged, looking utterly defeated. Pride, I guess.
And fear.
It was easier to focus on the money, on the potential, than to admit how insecure I really was. As the truth of Eli's motivations unraveled before me, I felt a strange mix of anger and pity. Do you realize what you've done? The trust you've broken? Eli nodded, unable to meet my eyes. I do now. I got so caught up in proving myself that I lost sight of everything that really mattered. I became the very thing I was afraid of being, unworthy of you. The admission hung heavy in the air between us. Outside, the storm raged on, but inside, A different kind of tempest was calming. "I'm sorry, Clara," Eli said softly. "For everything. I know it doesn't change anything, but I need you to know that." I stood, walking to the window. My reflection stared back at me, overlaid on the rain-streaked glass. In that moment, I saw not just myself, but echoes of my father, his strength, his integrity. "You're right," I said finally, turning back to Eli. "It doesn't change what's happened, but it does change where we go from here." Eli looked up, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "What do you mean?" I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what needed to be said. "I mean that I understand now. I understand why you did what you did. But understanding doesn't erase the hurt, the betrayal. Clara, please." I held up a hand, silencing him. "Let me finish, Eli. You're right about one thing. You are unworthy. Not because of where you come from or what you own, but because of the choices you've made. The man I married would never have resorted to manipulation and greed, no matter how insecure he felt." Eli's shoulders sagged, the last vestiges of his defenses crumbling. "So, this is it then? We're really over?" I nodded, feeling a strange sense of calm wash over me. "Yes, Eli, we're over. But it's not because you're not good enough for this estate or my family's name. It's because you forgot what really matters: trust, integrity, love. Those are the things my father valued above all else, the legacy he truly left me." As the words left my mouth, I felt a weight lifting from my shoulders. The path ahead was clear now, free from the shadows of doubt and manipulation. "What will you do?" Eli asked, his voice small. I smiled, thinking of the conversations I'd had with my mother, with Gwen. "I'm going to honor my father's memory. Not by clinging to the past, but by building something new. Something that serves the community, that makes a real difference." Eli nodded, a flicker of the man I'd once loved showing through. "He would be proud of you, Clara. I hope you know that." "I do," I said softly. "And I hope one day you'll find a way to be proud of yourself, Eli, without needing to prove anything to anyone." As Eli gathered his things to leave, the storm outside began to subside. A ray of sunlight broke through the clouds, illuminating the room. It felt like a sign, a promise of brighter days ahead. Watching Eli's car disappear down the driveway, I felt a complex mix of emotions: sadness for what was lost, anger at the deception, but also a profound sense of liberation. The battle was over, but a new chapter was just beginning. I turned back to the house, my legacy, with renewed purpose. It was time to stop fighting the past and start building the future. A future my father would be proud of, and one I could face with my head held high. The sun rose over the estate, its warm light spilling across the newly renovated community center. I stood on the porch, coffee in hand, marveling at how much had changed in just a few short months. "Ready for the big day?" My mother's voice startled me from my reverie. I turned, smiling. "As ready as I'll ever be." Today was the grand opening of the Lyle Thompson Community Center, named in honor of my father. What was once a symbol of personal wealth had been transformed into a beacon of hope for the entire town. As we walked through the building, making last-minute preparations, I couldn't help but feel a swell of pride. The library, filled with books from Dad's personal collection. The art studio, where local artists could teach and create. The garden, where we'd grow fresh produce for those in need. "Your father would be so proud, Clara," Mom said, squeezing my hand. I nodded, feeling a lump in my throat. "I hope so." The sound of car doors slamming drew our attention. Through the window, I saw Gwen arriving with a group of volunteers. And behind them, a familiar figure that made my heart skip a beat. Eli. I hadn't seen him since our last confrontation, since the day he'd finally admitted the truth about his motivations. Part of me had hoped he wouldn't show up today, but another part knew this moment of reckoning was necessary. "Do you want me to ask him to leave?" Mom asked, her voice tight with concern. I shook my head. "No, it's okay. I need to do this." Taking a deep breath, I stepped outside to greet the arrivals. Gwen rushed forward, enveloping me in a hug. "This place looks amazing, Clara," she gushed. "I can't believe how much you've accomplished." I smiled, grateful for her unwavering support. I couldn't have done it without you. As the volunteers filed inside, Eli approached cautiously. He looked different, humbler somehow. The sharp edges of his ambition softened. "Clara," he said softly, "I hope it's okay that I came. I wanted to see what you've created here." I studied him for a moment, searching for any hint of his old manipulative charm. But all I saw was genuine regret and admiration. "It's okay, Eli," I replied. "I'm glad you're here. This is what I was trying to explain to you all along. This is my father's true legacy." Eli nodded, his eyes taking in the transformed estate. "I see that now. Clara,
I'm sorry.
for everything. You've done something incredible here, something I never could have imagined." His words, so different from the greedy demands of months past, touched something in me. Not forgiveness, exactly, but understanding.
Thank you, Eli, I said.
"I hope you find your own way to make a difference in the world." As he walked away, I felt a chapter of my life closing. But the day was just beginning, and there was work to be done. The grand opening was a whirlwind of activity. Families poured in, exploring the new facilities with wonder and excitement. Children laughed in the playground, seniors gathered in the community room, and teenagers marveled at the state-of-the-art computer lab. As I moved through the crowds, greeting neighbors and answering questions, I caught glimpses of the impact we were already making. A single mother signing up for free childcare so she could attend night classes. An unemployed factory worker learning about job training programs. A lonely widower finding companionship in a book club. This was what Dad had always dreamed of, a place where the community could come together, where everyone had a chance to grow and thrive. As the day wound down, I found myself back on the porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant hues. Gwen joined me, handing me a glass of champagne. "To new beginnings," she toasted. I clinked my glass against hers. "And to honoring the past." We stood in comfortable silence, reflecting on the journey that had brought us here. The battles fought, the truths uncovered, the strength found in adversity. "You know," Gwen said softly, "I saw Eli earlier. He was volunteering in the food pantry, if you can believe it." I raised an eyebrow, surprised. "Really?" She nodded. "People can change, Clara. Sometimes they just need to see a better way." Her words settled over me, bringing a sense of peace I hadn't realized I was missing. The anger and hurt I'd carried for so long began to dissipate, replaced by a quiet resolve to keep moving forward. As the last of the visitors left, I walked through the quiet halls of the community center. Each room held the promise of lives changed, of a community united. In the library, I paused before a portrait of my father, his kind eyes seeming to twinkle with approval. "We did it, Dad," I whispered. "We turned your dream into something even greater." Outside, the estate grounds stretched out before me, no longer a symbol of personal wealth, but a shared treasure for all to enjoy. The setting sun cast long shadows across the land, but for the first time in months, I felt only light within me. This was my legacy now, not just preserving what my father had built, but expanding on it, using it to lift up others. The journey had been difficult, filled with betrayal and heartache, but it had led me here, to this moment of clarity and purpose. As I locked up the community center for the night, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. For my father's wisdom, my mother's support, Gwen's friendship, and even for the challenges that had shaped me. The estate stood silent in the gathering twilight, no longer a battleground, but a sanctuary. And as I walked towards home, I knew that whatever challenges the future might bring, I was ready to face them, stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever to honor the true value of my inheritance. "To the empire we'll build," Grant declares, his voice booming through the microphone. The crystal champagne flute trembles in my hand as I force a smile. Across the room, Vivian's calculating gaze sends a chill down my spine. "My name is Lena, and tonight marks the beginning of my husband's reign as president of Whitmore Industries. It should be a moment of triumph, but all I feel is dread." The ballroom of the Whitmore mansion glitters with wealth and ambition. Executives in tailored suits mingle with socialites dripping in diamonds. I stand beside Grant, playing the part of the supportive wife, but I've never felt more alone.
Speech.
Speech, someone calls out. Grant grins, basking in the attention. Friends, family, esteemed colleagues, he begins. This is just the start. With your support, we'll take Whitmore Industries to heights my father never dreamed possible. Polite applause ripples through the crowd. I catch Clark's eye across the room. His smile doesn't quite reach his eyes. And of course, Grant continues, wrapping an arm around my waist, I couldn't do it without my beautiful wife, Lena. The spotlight shifts to me. I plaster on my best smile, acutely aware of Vivian's disapproving frown. Thank you all for coming, I say, my voice steadier than I feel. We're so grateful for your support. As the party resumes, Grant is quickly swept away by a group of investors. I find myself drifting towards the bar, desperate for a moment of peace. Quite the spectacle, isn't it? Clark appears beside me, his voice low. I nod, grateful for his presence. It's overwhelming. How are you holding up, Lena? He asks, genuine concern in his eyes. Before I can answer, Vivian materializes, her perfectly coiffed hair gleaming under the chandeliers. There you are, she says, her tone sharp. Grant's looking for you. The Hendersons want a photo. I suppress a sigh and follow her across the room. As we walk, Vivian leans in close. Remember your place, Lena, she hisses. This is Grant's moment. Don't embarrass us. The words sting, but I've learned to hide my reactions. I paste on another smile as we approach Grant and the Hendersons. There's my girl, Grant says, pulling me close. His breath smells of expensive scotch. Mr. Henderson was just telling me about an exciting new opportunity in Singapore. I nod politely, my mind racing. Singapore? We'd never discussed moving overseas. As the night wears on, I find myself retreating to a quiet corner. The constant smiling, the vapid small talk, it's all becoming too much. You look like you could use this, a familiar voice says. Maya appears, offering me a glass of water. My savior. I murmur gratefully. Maya's eyes narrow as she surveys the room. How are you really doing, Lena? And don't give me that I'm fine bullshit. I hesitate, torn between loyalty and honesty. It's complicated. I finally admit. Grant's different lately, more distant. And Vivian is still a nightmare? Maya finishes. I can't help but laugh. You could say that. Our conversation is cut short as Grant's voice booms through the speakers once more. If I could have everyone's attention, please. The crowd quiets, all eyes turning towards the makeshift stage. Grant stands there, looking every inch the powerful CEO in his tailored suit. I want to thank you all again for being here tonight, he says. But there's one more announcement I'd like to make. My stomach twists. This isn't part of the plan we discussed. As we embark on this new chapter for Whitmore Industries, we need to streamline our operations, Grant continues. Which is why I've decided to bring in some fresh blood to our executive team. Murmurs ripple through the crowd. I catch sight of Vivian, her face glowing with pride. Please join me in welcoming our new Chief Operating Officer, Grant says, gesturing towards the wings. Tessa Monroe. A statuesque blonde glides onto the stage, her red dress clinging to every curve. She beams at the crowd, then turns to plant a kiss on Grant's cheek. The room erupts in applause, but I barely hear it over the roaring in my ears. I've never seen this woman before in my life. As Tessa begins to speak, I feel Maya's hand on my arm. Lena, she whispers, are you okay? I shake my head, unable to form words. Across the room, I lock eyes with Vivian. Her triumphant smirk tells me everything I need to know. This isn't just a new chapter for Whitmore Industries. It's the beginning of the end of my marriage. As the party continues around me, one thought crystallizes in my mind. I will not go down without a fight. The harsh fluorescent lights of the Whitmore Industries office buzz overhead as I pore over the latest financial reports. It's been 2 weeks since Grant's promotion party, and the cracks in our relationship are widening by the day. Lena, Did you finish those projections? Grant's voice crackles through the intercom, impatient and distant. I suppress a sigh. Almost done. I'll bring them in 5 minutes. Make it 3, he snaps before cutting the connection. As I gather the papers, my eyes catch on a photo on my desk, Grant and me on our honeymoon, carefree and in love. It feels like a lifetime ago. I knock on Grant's office door, steeling myself for another tense interaction.
Come in, he barks.
I enter to find Grant hunched over his computer, barely glancing up as I approach. Here are the projections you asked for, I say, placing the folder on his desk. He grunts in acknowledgement, still not meeting my eyes. What about the Henderson account? Any progress there? I've scheduled a meeting for next week. They seem interested in expanding their investment. Grant finally looks up, a flash of approval in his eyes. Good. That's good work, Lena. For a moment, I see a glimmer of the man I married. But it's gone in an instant as his phone buzzes. He snatches it up, a small smile playing on his lips as he reads the message. That'll be all. He dismisses me with a wave of his hand. As I turn to leave, a slip of paper falls from the folder. I bend to pick it up, freezing as I realize what it is. A receipt for a diamond necklace from Tiffany's. A necklace I've never seen. What's this? I ask, my voice barely above a whisper. Grant's head snaps up, his eyes widening as he sees the receipt in my hand. It's nothing, he says quickly. Just a business expense. A $50,000 business expense. I counter, my heart pounding. He stands abruptly, snatching the paper from my grasp. I said it's nothing, Lena. Don't you have work to do? I leave his office in a daze, my mind racing. As I settle back at my desk, my phone lights up with a text from Maya. Lunch today? We need to talk. An hour later, I'm sitting across from Maya at our favorite cafe, picking at a salad I can't bring myself to eat. Spill, Maya demands, her eyes filled with concern. What's going on with you and Grant? I hesitate, then the words tumble out in a rush. I tell her about Grant's distant behavior, the suspicious receipt, the growing pit in my stomach. Maya listens intently, her frown deepening. Lena, she says gently, I hate to say this, but there are rumors. My heart sinks. What kind of rumors? She takes a deep breath. People have seen Grant with another woman. Multiple times. Always very close. The world seems to tilt on its axis. I knew things weren't right, but hearing it confirmed is like a punch to the gut. Who? I managed to choke out. Maya shakes her head. I don't know her name, but she's apparently new to the company. Tall, blonde, always dressed to the nines. Tessa Monroe. The pieces start to fall into place, and I feel sick. What are you going to do? Maya asks, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. I straighten my shoulders, a spark of determination igniting within me. I'm going to find out the truth. And then, I don't know. As I return to the office, I notice hushed conversations stopping abruptly as I pass. Sympathetic glances follow me down the hallway. I've become the object of pity, and the realization burns. I throw myself into work, determined to prove my worth beyond being Grant's wife. Hours fly by as I meticulously comb through accounts, finding discrepancies and inefficiencies that have been overlooked. It's past 9 when I finally look up from my computer. The office is deserted, save for a light still burning in Grant's office. Taking a deep breath, I gather my courage and knock on his door. No answer. I push it open slowly, ready to leave the files on his desk. But the sight that greets me stops me cold. Grant is there, but he's not alone. Tessa Monroe is perched on his desk, her legs crossed provocatively as she leans in close to him. They spring apart as the door creaks, guilt written across their faces. Lena, Grant exclaims, his voice strained. What are you still doing here? I stand frozen in the doorway, my eyes darting between them. The diamond necklace glitters at Tessa's throat, mocking me. I say slowly, my voice steadier than I feel, that I'm finally seeing things clearly. Without another word, I turn and walk away, leaving Grant's protests echoing behind me. As I step into the cool night air, A strange calm settles over me. The facade has cracked wide open, and there's no going back. It's time to decide what kind of life I want to build from the rubble. I fumble with my keys, exhaustion weighing heavily on my shoulders as I finally unlock the front door. The house is eerily quiet, a stark contrast to the chaos swirling in my mind. I've spent the last few hours driving aimlessly, trying to process what I saw in Grant's office. Grant. I call out, my voice echoing through the empty foyer. No response. As I step into the living room, I freeze. A statuesque blonde is lounging on my couch, swirling a glass of red wine. My favorite vintage. Well, she drawls, her lips curving into a predatory smile. The little wife finally comes home. My heart pounds as recognition dawns. Tessa Monroe, I say, my voice barely above a whisper. She stands, smoothing down her designer dress. In the flesh. I was beginning to think you'd never show up. What are you doing in my house? I demand, finding my voice. Tessa laughs, a tinkling sound that grates on my nerves. Oh, honey, I think we both know this isn't really your house anymore. I clench my fists, fighting to maintain composure. Where's Grant? Out, she says dismissively. Damage control, I'm sure. Your little scene at the office caused quite a stir. Anger flares within me. My scene? You're the one who what? Tessa interrupts, her eyes glittering dangerously. Who saw an opportunity and took it. Face it, Lena. You were holding Grant back. He needs a partner who can keep up with his ambitions. And you think that's you? I scoff. She shrugs, the diamond necklace, my necklace, catching the light. I know it's me. Grant and we understand each other. We're building an empire together. The words hit me like a physical blow, echoing Grant's toast from that fateful party. I open my mouth to retort, but the sound of the front door opening cuts me off. Lena? Grant's voice calls out, tinged with panic. Are you here? We need to talk. He stops short as he enters the living room, his eyes darting between Tessa and me. What's going on here? He asks, his face pale. Tessa slinks over to him, wrapping an arm around his waist. Just getting acquainted with the soon-to-be ex-Mrs. Whitmore, she purrs. I watch as Grant flinches, guilt flashing across his face. But he doesn't push Tessa away. Lena, I can explain, he starts, but I cut him off with a bitter laugh. Explain what, Grant? How you've been lying to me, cheating on me, making a fool of me in front of everyone we know. He takes a step towards me, hands outstretched. It's not like that. Things just happened. I never meant to hurt you. Save it, I snap. I don't want to hear your excuses. The tension in the room is palpable, crackling like electricity. But before anyone can say another word, the front door swings open once again. Grant? Lena? Is everything all right? Vivian's imperious voice rings out. I saw both your cars outside. And she stops abruptly as she takes in the scene before her. For a moment, shock registers on her face. Then, to my utter disbelief, she composes herself and turns to Tessa with a warm smile. Tessa, darling, she coos, embracing the other woman. I didn't expect to see you here. I feel like I've stepped into some bizarre alternate reality. You've got to be kidding me, I mutter. Vivian turns to me, her eyes cold. Lena, dear, I think it's time we had a frank discussion about the future of this family. The future of this family? I repeat incredulously. You can't be serious. I'm always serious when it comes to the Whitmore legacy, Vivian says firmly. Grant needs a partner who can support his vision, who understands the demands of his position. And you think that's her? I gesture towards Tessa, who's watching the exchange with barely concealed glee. Vivian sighs, as if explaining something to a child. Tessa has connections, ambition. She can open doors that you simply can't, Lena. I turn to Grant, searching his face for any sign of the man I married. And you? Is this what you want? He at least has the decency to look ashamed. Lena,
I'm sorry.
But maybe my mother has a point. The company needs. The company? I interrupt, my voice rising. What about our marriage? What about the vows we made? Sometimes sacrifices must be made for the greater good. Vivian interjects smoothly. I'm sure we can come to some sort of arrangement, a generous settlement, perhaps? The realization hits me like a tidal wave. They've planned this. All of them. I'm being neatly excised from the Whitmore family, like a tumor to be removed. Get out, I say quietly. Excuse me? Vivian bristles. I said, get out. I shout, surprising even myself with the force of my words. All of you. This is still my house, and I want you out.
Now.
For a moment, no one moves. Then Grant nods, taking Tessa's arm. Come on, he murmurs. We should go. As they file out, Vivian pauses at the door. Think carefully about your next move, Lena, she warns. Don't do anything rash. The door closes behind them, leaving me alone in the sudden silence. I sink to the floor, my legs no longer able to support me. Tears threaten to fall, but I blink them back furiously.
No.
I won't give them the satisfaction of breaking me. As the shock begins to fade, a new emotion takes its place. Determination. They think they can push me aside? They have no idea who they're dealing with. This isn't the end. It's just the beginning. The Whitmore mansion looms before me, its grandeur now feeling more like a prison than a home. I take a deep breath, steeling myself for the family dinner ahead. It's been a week since the confrontation with Tessa and Vivian, and Grant's pathetic attempts at reconciliation have fallen on deaf ears. As I enter, the tension is palpable. Clark greets me with a warm hug, his eyes conveying silent support. Vivian's smile is brittle as she air kisses my cheek, her perfume cloying and suffocating. Lena, darling, she trills. So glad you could make it. We have much to discuss. Grant emerges from his study, looking haggard. Lena, he says, reaching for my hand. I sidestep his touch, moving towards the dining room. Let's just get this over with, I mutter. The meal is a masterclass in passive aggression. Vivian dominates the conversation, prattling on about company successes and social engagements. I push food around my plate, my appetite long gone. Oh, Lena, Vivian says suddenly, her tone saccharine. I forgot to mention, the Hendersons' charity gala is next month. I've taken the liberty of declining your invitation. I'm sure you understand, given the circumstances. The fork clatters from my hand. Excuse me? Vivian sighs dramatically. Well, dear, it would be awkward, wouldn't it? Especially since Tessa will be attending as Grant's +1. I turn to Grant, fury building. Is this true? He at least has the decency to look uncomfortable. Lena, it's not personal. It's just business. Tessa has connections that could really benefit the company. Not personal? I laugh bitterly. You're parading your mistress around at events I've attended for years, and it's not personal? Now, Lena, Vivian interjects, there's no need for hysterics. We're all adults here. Sometimes sacrifices must be made for the greater good of the family. The greater good? I stand abruptly, my chair scraping against the floor. And what exactly is my place in this greater good, Vivian? To sit quietly at home while my husband flaunts his affair in public. Grant rises, his face flushed. That's enough, Lena. You're embarrassing yourself. I'm embarrassing myself? My voice rises, years of pent-up frustration finally boiling over. You're the one who threw away our marriage for a cheap fling. Tessa is not a cheap fling. Grant shouts back. She understands me, supports my ambitions. When was the last time you did that? The room falls silent, the weight of his words hanging in the air. I feel as if I've been slapped. I have supported you every step of the way, I say quietly, my voice shaking with anger. I've been your wife, your secretary, your accountant. I've sacrificed my own dreams for yours. And this is how you repay me. Vivian clears her throat. Perhaps it's time we discuss a more permanent arrangement. A divorce settlement that's fair to all parties. I whirl on her. Fair? You want to talk about fair? How about the fact that I've dedicated years of my life to this family, only to be tossed aside like yesterday's garbage? Now. Clark speaks up for the first time, his voice calm but firm. Let's all take a breath here. But I'm beyond taking breaths. Years of suppressed emotions come pouring out. You've never accepted me, have you, Vivian? I've never been good enough for your precious son or your precious company. Well, guess what? I don't need your acceptance anymore. I don't need any of this. I storm out of the dining room, my heart pounding. As I reach for my coat, I hear footsteps behind me. Lena, wait. It's Clark, his eyes filled with concern. Don't leave like this. I pause, my hand on the doorknob. I can't stay here, Clark. I can't keep pretending everything's okay when it's so clearly not. He nods, understanding in his gaze. I know, but before you go, I want you to know something. You deserve better than this. You deserve to be happy. His words hit me like a punch to the gut. For the first time in years, someone in this family is seeing me, really seeing me. Thank you, I whisper, fighting back tears. As I drive away from the Whitmore mansion, a strange sense of calm washes over me. The confrontation, as painful as it was, has brought clarity. I can't change Grant or Vivian, but I can change my own path. My phone buzzes with a text from Maya. How'd it go? Need me to hide a body? I laugh despite myself, feeling lighter than I have in months. I may have lost my place in the Whitmore family, but I haven't lost myself. It's time to start building a life on my own terms. As I pull into my driveway, a plan begins to form. The Whitmore name may open doors, but I'm ready to kick them down myself. They think they can push me aside? They have no idea what I'm capable of. The game has changed, and I'm done playing by their rules. The morning sun streams through the curtains as I zip up the last of my suitcases. My hands tremble slightly, but my resolve is firm. After last night's disastrous family dinner, I know there's no going back. A soft knock at the door makes me jump. Lena? Grant's voice is hesitant. Can we talk? I take a deep breath, steeling myself. There's nothing left to say, Grant. He enters anyway, his eyes widening at the sight of my packed bags. What are you doing? What does it look like? I snap, hefting a duffel bag onto my shoulder. I'm leaving. Grant's face pales. Leaving? But where will you go? That's not your concern anymore. I brush past him, dragging my suitcase towards the stairs. He follows, his voice tinged with panic. Lena, please. We can work this out. I'll end things with Tessa, I promise. I whirl around, anger flaring. It's too late for that. You've made your choice, Grant. Now I'm making mine. As I reach for the front door, it swings open. Vivian stands there, her face a mask of disapproval. Going somewhere, dear? I straighten my spine, meeting her gaze. As a matter of fact, I am. Goodbye, Vivian. She blocks my path, her voice low and threatening. Think carefully about what you're doing, Lena. You walk out that door, you lose everything. No, I say, surprising myself with the strength in my voice. I'm not losing anything. I'm gaining my freedom. With that, I push past her and step into the sunlight. The weight of years of suppressed emotions lifts from my shoulders as I load my car. I don't look back as I drive away, leaving behind the gilded cage of the Whitmore estate. An hour later, I'm sitting in Maya's cozy apartment, a steaming mug of tea in my hands. She listens intently as I recount the events of the past few days. I'm proud of you, Lena, she says, squeezing my hand. It takes guts to walk away from all that. I nod, fighting back tears. I don't know what to do now. Who am I without the Whitmore name? Maya's eyes light up. You're Lena, the smartest, most capable woman I know. And now you have the chance to prove it to yourself. Her words spark something inside me. For the first time in years, I feel a glimmer of excitement about the future. You're right, I say, sitting up straighter. I've spent so long living Grant's dreams. It's time to focus on my own. Over the next few days, Maya's apartment becomes a war room of sorts. We brainstorm ideas, poring over job listings and business plans. My background in accounting is solid, but it doesn't ignite the passion I'm looking for. It's not until we're planning Maya's sister's baby shower that inspiration strikes. As I coordinate vendors, design invitations, and manage the budget, I realize I'm in my element. Maya, I say, excitement bubbling up. I think I've found it. Found what? My calling. Event planning. It combines everything I'm good at: organization, finance, creativity. And I already have connections in the industry from all those Whitmore galas. Maya grins. It's perfect. You'd be amazing at it. The next few weeks are a whirlwind of activity. I pour myself into research, taking online courses, and reaching out to industry contacts. To my surprise, many are eager to work with me, impressed by my skills and reputation. As I'm sketching out a business plan one evening, my phone buzzes with a text from Clark. Heard the news. Proud of you, kiddo. Let me know if you need anything. His support brings tears to my eyes. At least one member of the Whitmore family still believes in me. The day I receive my first client booking is a milestone. It's a small corporate event, nothing like the lavish galas I'm used to, but it's mine. As I hang up the phone, a sense of accomplishment washes over me. I did it, I whisper to myself. I'm really doing this. That night, as Maya and I celebrate with a bottle of wine, my phone rings. It's Grant. My hand hovers over the screen, tempted to ignore it, but something compels me to answer. Lena, his voice is strained. I heard about your new business. Congratulations. Thank you, I say cautiously. There's a long pause. I miss you, he finally says. The company, it's not the same without you. Maybe we could. No, Grant. I interrupt, my voice firm. I'm building something of my own now. Something that doesn't depend on the Whitmore name or your approval. As I end the call, I feel a surge of pride. The road ahead won't be easy, but for the first time in years, I'm excited about the journey. Maya raises her glass in a toast. To new beginnings, she says. I clink my glass against hers, a genuine smile spreading across my face. To new beginnings, I echo. And to the woman I'm becoming. The headline on my phone screen makes me pause mid-sip of my morning coffee. Whitmore Industries stock plummets amid leadership concerns. I can't help but feel a twinge of satisfaction mixed with concern. Looks like your ex is having a rough time, Maya comments, peering over my shoulder. I nod, scrolling through the article. Grant's always been ambitious, but he's in over his head. And Tessa, she's not exactly known for her business acumen. As if on cue, my phone buzzes with a text from Clark. Things are getting messy here. Grant's making rash decisions. Vivian's on the warpath. Be careful. I frown, a knot forming in my stomach. Despite everything, I can't help but worry about the company I dedicated years of my life to. You okay? Maya asks, sensing my unease. I shake it off, forcing a smile. I'm fine. I've got my own problems to focus on, like making sure this charity event goes off without a hitch. The next few days are a whirlwind of activity as I throw myself into planning the annual Children's Hospital Gala. It's my first major event since starting my business, and I'm determined to prove myself. As I'm coordinating with vendors, my phone rings. It's an unknown number. Lena Whitmore speaking. I answer professionally. Lena, it's me. Grant's voice is strained. I need your help. I freeze, caught off guard. Grant?
What's going on?
He sighs heavily. The company's in trouble. We're hemorrhaging money. Investors are pulling out. I don't know what to do. Part of me wants to hang up, to tell him it's not my problem anymore. But I can't ignore the years we spent building this company together. What about Tessa? I ask, unable to keep the bitterness from my voice. Isn't she your partner now? Grant's laugh is hollow. Tessa's idea of crisis management is to throw money at the problem. She's making things worse. I pinch the bridge of my nose, conflicted. I'm sorry, Grant, but I can't just drop everything and come running back. I have my own business now, my own responsibilities. I understand, he says, his voice small. I miss your insight, your steadiness. I've made a mess of things, Lena. The call ends, leaving me with a mix of emotions. I push them aside, focusing on the task at hand. The gala is tomorrow, and I have no time for distractions. The night of the event arrives, and I'm a bundle of nerves. As guests begin to arrive, I scan the room, making sure everything is perfect. The decor is elegant, The music is just right, and the silent auction items are displayed prominently. "Lena?" A familiar voice calls out. I turn to see Clark approaching, a warm smile on his face.
"Clark."
"I didn't expect to see you here," I say, genuinely pleased. He chuckles. "Wouldn't miss it. You've done an incredible job." As we chat, I notice a commotion near the entrance. My heart sinks as I see Grant stumbling in, Tessa on his arm. They're both clearly intoxicated. "Oh no," I mutter. Clark follows my gaze, his expression darkening. "I'll handle this," he says, moving towards them. But it's too late. Grant spots me and lurches forward. "Lena," he calls out, too loudly. "There you are. Always the perfect hostess, aren't you?" Tessa giggles, her eyes glassy. "Oh look, it's the ex-wife. How quaint." I plaster on a smile, acutely aware of the curious glances from nearby guests. "Grant, Tessa, I'm afraid I'll have to ask you to leave. This is a private event." Grant's face contorts with anger. "Leave? You can't make me leave. Do you know who I am?" "A drunk fool making a scene at a charity event," Clark interjects, appearing at my side. "Come on, son. Let's go home." As Clark leads him away, I struggle to maintain my composure. The event coordinator in me takes over, smoothing ruffled feathers and redirecting attention to the silent auction. Despite the hiccup, the gala is a resounding success. As the last guests depart, I finally allow myself to breathe. "You did it, Lena," Maya says, hugging me tightly. "This was amazing." I smile, exhausted but exhilarated.
"Thanks, Maya."
"I couldn't have done it without you." As we're cleaning up, my phone buzzes with a text. It's from Mrs. Henderson, one of the city's most prominent socialites. "Brilliant event, Lena. I'd love to discuss you planning my annual summer soiree." My heart soars. This is the opportunity I've been waiting for. Just then, Clark reappears, looking weary. "Lena, we need to talk," he says gravely. "Things at Whitmore Industries are worse than you know, and I think you might be the only one who can help." I stare at him, torn between my newfound success and the pull of my past. As the weight of his words sinks in, I realize that the real challenge is just beginning. The question is, am I ready to face it? The Whitmore Industries building looms before me, a glass and steel monolith that once felt like a second home. Now, it's a reminder of everything I've lost and everything I've gained. I take a deep breath, squaring my shoulders as I push through the revolving doors. Clark's words echo in my mind. "Things are worse than you know, Lena. We need your help." The elevator ride to the executive floor is tense. As the doors slide open, I'm met with chaos. Employees hurry about, their faces etched with worry. The usual hum of productivity has been replaced by a nervous energy. "Lena?" A familiar voice catches me off guard. I turn to see Grant, his appearance a far cry from the polished executive I remember. His suit is rumpled, dark circles under his eyes betraying his exhaustion. "What are you doing here?" he asks, a mix of hope and wariness in his voice. "Clark called me," I reply, keeping my tone neutral. "He said you needed help." Before Grant can respond, a shrill voice cuts through the air. "What is she doing here?" Vivian storms towards us, her face a mask of fury. "Haven't you done enough damage?" I stand my ground, meeting her glare. "I'm here because your son and your husband asked for my help, Vivian. Whether you like it or not, I know this company better than anyone." Vivian's eyes narrow, but before she can retort, Clark appears. "Thank God you're here, Lena," he says, relief evident in his voice. "We need to talk. All of us." The boardroom is eerily quiet as Clark lays out the dire situation. Mismanagement, poor investments, and a series of PR disasters have left Whitmore Industries on the brink of collapse. "And where's Tessa in all this?" I can't help but ask, noticing her absence. Grant winces.
She left."
Took a hefty severance package with her. I bite back a bitter laugh.
"Of course she did."
As the meeting progresses, I find myself slipping back into my old role, identifying problems and proposing solutions. It's clear that my intimate knowledge of the company's workings is desperately needed. Hours pass in a blur of spreadsheets and strategy sessions. As night falls, we finally take a break. I step out onto the balcony, needing a moment to clear my head. "You're a lifesaver, you know that?" Grant's voice startles me. He joins me at the railing, his presence both familiar and foreign. I turn to face him, really looking at him for the first time in months. The arrogance that had consumed him is gone, replaced by a haunted look. "Why did you do it, Grant?" I ask, the question that's been burning inside me finally spilling out. "Was I not enough?" He flinches, unable to meet my gaze. "I was a fool, Lena. Drunk on power and my own ego. I thought I needed someone who could keep up with my ambitions, but all I did was destroy the best thing in my life." His words hang in the air between us. Part of me wants to comfort him, to fall back into the familiar pattern of our relationship. But I've come too far to go back now. "I'm not here for you, Grant," I say firmly. "I'm here for the company, for the employees who depend on it. And I'm here for myself, to prove that I'm more than just your wife." He nods, a mix of sadness and understanding in his eyes. "I know. And I'm grateful, even if I don't deserve your help." We're interrupted by Vivian, who bursts onto the balcony. "What's going on here?" she demands, her eyes darting between us suspiciously. "Nothing that concerns you, Mother," Grant says wearily. Vivian's face contorts with rage. "This is all your fault," she hisses at me. "You've turned my son against me, poisoned this company with your influence. I've had enough." Years of pent-up frustration and anger finally boil over. "No, Vivian," I snap. "You did this. Your manipulation, your constant undermining, your refusal to see anyone but yourself as worthy. You're the poison here." The silence that follows is deafening. Vivian staggers back, as if physically struck. For the first time, I see fear in her eyes. Grant steps between us. "She's right, Mother," he says quietly. "It's time for things to change." As Vivian storms off, I feel a weight lift from my shoulders. I turn to Grant, my decision clear. "I'll help save the company," I tell him. "But after that, I'm done. I have my own path to follow now." He nods, a mixture of regret and respect in his eyes. "I understand. And Lena, thank you." As I walk back into the boardroom, ready to face the challenges ahead, I feel a sense of purpose I haven't experienced in years. The road won't be easy, but for the first time in a long time, I'm excited about the future, a future I'm building on my own terms. The real work is just beginning, but so is my new life. And I'm ready for both. The buzz of excitement fills the air as I make my final rounds, ensuring every detail is perfect for the grand opening of Lena Whitmore Events. The venue, a renovated warehouse, sparkles with elegant decorations and soft lighting. It's a far cry from the opulent Whitmore galas, but it's mine, and that makes it more beautiful than any crystal chandelier. Maya appears at my side, beaming. "Lena, this is incredible. I can't believe how far you've come in just a few months." I squeeze her hand, grateful for her unwavering support. "I couldn't have done it without you." As guests begin to arrive, I'm overwhelmed by the turnout. Former colleagues, new clients, and even a few familiar faces from my Whitmore days fill the space. Each congratulation, each word of praise, feels like a validation of my journey. "Quite the accomplishment, kiddo," a familiar voice says. I turn to see Clark, his eyes twinkling with pride. "Clark, I'm so glad you could make it," I say, embracing him warmly. He looks around, clearly impressed. "You've built something special here, Lena. I always knew you had it in you." As we chat, I notice a commotion near the entrance. My heart skips a beat as I see Grant walk in, looking uncertain and out of place. Our eyes meet across the room, and for a moment, I'm transported back to that first party when everything began to unravel. But this time, I'm not the insecure wife standing in his shadow. I'm Lena Whitmore, successful businesswoman and master of my own destiny. Grant makes his way over, fidgeting with his tie. "Lena, this is amazing. Congratulations." "Thank you, Grant," I reply, surprised by the genuine warmth in my voice. "How are things at Whitmore Industries?" He nods, a hint of his old confidence returning. Better, thanks to your help. We're not out of the woods yet, but we're getting there. An awkward silence falls between us, years of history hanging in the air. Finally, Grant speaks again, his voice low. I was a fool, Lena. I threw away the best thing in my life because I was too blind to see what I had. I take a deep breath, feeling the last remnants of anger and hurt begin to fade. We both made mistakes, Grant, but I'm grateful for where they led me. He smiles sadly. You deserve all of this, Lena. I'm happy for you, truly. As Grant moves away to mingle, I feel a sense of closure wash over me. The past no longer has a hold on me. I'm free to embrace my future fully. The evening progresses in a whirlwind of introductions, toasts, and potential business discussions. As I circulate, I overhear snippets of conversation that make my heart swell with pride. Did you hear? She single-handedly saved Whitmore Industries. I heard the governor wants her to plan the annual charity ball. She's the one who organized that incredible children's hospital gala. As the night winds down, I find a quiet moment to slip outside. The cool air is a welcome relief after the bustling energy inside. I look up at the stars, marveling at how much has changed in such a short time. There you are, Maya says, joining me. Hiding from your own party? I laugh, just taking a moment to breathe it all in. She links her arm through mine. So, how does it feel to be the toast of a town? I consider her question, searching for the right words. It feels
Right.
like I've finally found my place in the world. Maya nods, understanding in her eyes. You know, when you first showed up at my door that night, I was worried. But look at you now. You're unstoppable, Lena Whitmore. Tears prick at my eyes, but they're tears of joy and gratitude.
Thank you, Maya.
For everything. As we head back inside, I'm struck by a sudden realization. The empire Grant toasted to all those months ago wasn't meant to be his at all. It was mine, waiting for me to claim it. The party begins to wind down, guests departing with warm wishes and promises of future collaborations. As the last few stragglers make their way out, I find myself alone in the center of the room. I close my eyes, savoring the moment. The fear and uncertainty that once plagued me have been replaced by a quiet confidence. I've faced betrayal, heartbreak, and self-doubt, and emerged stronger for it. Opening my eyes, I take in the space around me, the tangible proof of my resilience and determination. This is more than just a business. It's a testament to the power of reinvention, of finding strength in adversity. As I gather my things, ready to close this chapter and open the next, I smile to myself. The journey has been difficult, but the destination has been worth every step. I switch off the lights, casting one last glance over my shoulder at the empty venue. Tomorrow, the real work begins. But tonight, I'll celebrate how far I've come and dream of how much further I can go. Lena Whitmore, event planner extraordinaire, is just getting started. And the future? It's looking brighter than ever. Grandma, please, I can't breathe here. Save me from this nightmare. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. My grandson's voice, usually so full of life, now trembled with fear. I gripped the phone tighter, my knuckles turning white. Jonah? What's wrong, sweetheart? I asked, fighting to keep my voice steady. I can't talk now. She might hear me. Please, Grandma, just come get me. The line went dead. I stared at the silent phone, my mind reeling. What nightmare was Jonah living in? And who was this she he was so afraid of? My name is Marlowe, and I thought I knew my family. I was wrong. I grabbed my car keys, my hands shaking. The drive to Eli and Lila's house felt like an eternity. My son and his wife had always seemed like the perfect couple, doting parents to my precious grandson. But Jonah's desperate plea echoed in my ears, shattering that illusion. As I pulled into their driveway, I saw Lila's silhouette in the window. She was pacing, gesticulating wildly. I couldn't hear her words, but her body language screamed anger. I marched up to the front door and rang the bell. Silence fell inside the house. After a moment, Lila opened the door, her face a mask of forced pleasantness. "Marlo," she said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "What a surprise. We weren't expecting you." I pushed past her into the house. "Where's Jonah?" Lila's smile faltered for a second. "He's in his room, doing homework. You know how busy he is with school." "I'd like to see him," I said, already heading for the stairs. Lila's hand shot out, gripping my arm. "Now's not a good time, Marlo. Why don't you come back this weekend?" I yanked my arm free. "I'm here now, Lila. And I'm seeing my grandson." As I climbed the stairs, I heard Lila hiss, "Eli, your mother's here." I found Jonah's door closed. I knocked softly. "Jonah? It's Grandma." The door cracked open, and Jonah's pale face appeared. His eyes were red-rimmed, his cheeks tear-stained. Without a word, he threw himself into my arms. "Oh, sweetheart," I murmured, holding him tight. "What's going on?" Before Jonah could answer, Eli appeared in the hallway. "Mom, what are you doing here?" I looked at my son, over Jonah's head. "I got a call. Jonah needed me." Eli's brow furrowed. "A call? Jonah, you know you're not supposed to use your phone during study time." Jonah stiffened in my arms. I felt a surge of protectiveness. "Eli, something's wrong here." Jonah called me in tears, begging for help. "Don't be ridiculous, Mom," Eli said, but I saw uncertainty flicker in his eyes. "Everything's fine, right, Jonah?" Jonah pulled away from me, his eyes darting between his father and me. I just. Lila appeared behind Eli, her face a storm cloud. "Jonah, go finish your homework." "Marlo, I think it's time for you to leave." I stood my ground. "I'm not going anywhere until I know what's going on in this house." Lila's eyes narrowed. "Oh, Marlo, here to save the day again? Maybe if you spent less time meddling, you'd see things clearly." The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. I looked at Jonah, saw the fear in his eyes, and made a decision. Whatever was happening in this house, I was going to get to the bottom of it. My grandson needed me, and I wouldn't let him down. "This isn't over," I said, my voice low and determined. "Not by a long shot." As I left the house, Lila's words followed me. "It never is with you, is it, Marlo?" I got into my car, my mind racing. Something was very wrong in my son's home, and I had a sinking feeling that Lila was at the center of it all. One thing was certain, I would do whatever it took to protect Jonah, even if it meant tearing this family apart to save it. I couldn't shake the unease that clung to me after leaving Eli and Lila's house. Jonah's frightened face haunted me, his silent plea for help echoing in my mind. I needed answers, and I needed them fast. The next morning, I drove back to their neighborhood, parking a block away. I'd wait, watch, and hopefully catch a moment alone with Jonah. As luck would have it, I spotted him trudging towards the bus stop, shoulders slumped. I pulled up beside him. "Jonah, honey, get in." His head snapped up, relief flooding his features. He glanced around nervously before climbing in. "Grandma, what are you doing here?" "I couldn't stop worrying about you. Talk to me, sweetheart. What's going on at home?" Jonah's eyes welled up.
Mom.
"She's different when you're not around. She says awful things. Makes me feel worthless." My heart clenched. "What kind of things, Jonah?" He shook his head, fear creeping back into his expression. "I can't. She'll know I told you." I reached out, squeezing his hand. "I won't let anything happen to you, I promise." Just then, a car horn blared behind us. Lila's sleek sedan pulled up, her face a mask of fury behind the wheel. "Jonah, get out of that car right now." I turned to my grandson. "You don't have to go with her if you don't want to." Conflict warred on his face. Finally, he whispered, "I'm sorry, Grandma," and slipped out of the car. Lila stormed over, grabbing Jonah's arm. "What do you think you're doing, Marlo? Trying to kidnap my son?" "I was giving my grandson a ride to school," I said, keeping my voice level. "Is that a crime now?" Her eyes narrowed. "Stay away from my family. You're poisoning Jonah's mind with your interference." "The only poison here is coming from you, Lila," I shot back. She laughed, a brittle sound. "Oh, Marlo, Here to save the day again? Maybe if you spent less time meddling, you'd see things clearly. I watched helplessly as she dragged Jonah to her car. As they drove away, I caught a glimpse of his face in the rear window, eyes pleading for help. That evening, I called Eli. We need to talk about what's happening with Jonah. Mom, please, he sighed. Everything's fine. Lila told me about your little stunt this morning. You can't just show up and try to take Jonah. I wasn't taking him anywhere.
I'm worried about him, Eli.
Can't you see something's wrong? The only thing wrong is you overstepping, Mom. Lila's a good mother. She takes care of us. I bit back a frustrated scream. Open your eyes, Eli. Your son is suffering. I think you should take a step back, he said coldly. Give us some space. The line went dead. I stared at the phone, anger and fear warring inside me. How could Eli be so blind? Later that night, I jolted awake to my phone buzzing. A text from an unknown number. Grandma, please help. Mom's on a rampage. Dad won't do anything. I'm scared. My blood ran cold. I threw on clothes and raced to my car. As I sped towards Eli's house, my mind raced. What was I walking into? How bad had things gotten? I pulled up to see lights blazing in every window. Muffled shouting leaked through the walls. Taking a deep breath, I marched up to the front door and pounded on it. Eli yanked it open, his face a storm cloud. Mom, what are you doing here? I pushed past him. Where's Jonah? Lila appeared, her eyes wild. Get out of my house. Not without seeing my grandson, I said firmly. A crash from upstairs made us all freeze. Then Jonah's voice raw with tears. Just leave me alone. I locked eyes with Eli. Still think everything's fine? For the first time, I saw doubt flicker in my son's eyes. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Whatever came next, I knew one thing for certain. I wouldn't rest until Jonah was safe and this family's dark secrets were dragged into the light. The morning after the explosive confrontation at Eli's house, I found myself sitting across from Iris at our favorite cafe. My hands shook as I clutched my coffee mug, recounting the events of the past few days. I don't know what to do, Iris, I confessed. Jonah's clearly suffering, but Eli's in denial and Lila. She's like a fortress I can't breach. Iris leaned forward, her eyes filled with concern. Marlo, you need concrete evidence. Without it, it's just your word against Lila's. But how? Jonah's too scared to speak up and Eli won't listen. Iris paused, then said softly, Sometimes, Marlo, the truth hides in the silence. You need to listen to what's not being said. Her words struck a chord. What are you suggesting? I hate to say it, but have you considered recording what's happening in that house? I recoiled. You mean spy on them? That's illegal, isn't it? Iris shrugged. It's a gray area. But if it means protecting Jonah, the idea gnawed at me. It felt wrong, invasive. But then I remembered Jonah's terrified face, his desperate pleas for help. What choice did I have? I'll think about it, I said finally. That afternoon, I found myself parked outside Eli's house again. My heart raced as I watched Lila's car pull out of the driveway. This was my chance. I knocked on the door, plastering on a smile when Eli answered. Hi, honey. I thought I'd stop by and apologize for the other night. Can we talk? Eli hesitated, then nodded. Come in, Mom. As we sat in the living room, making awkward small talk, I discreetly pulled out the tiny audio recorder I'd bought that morning. My hands trembled as I activated it and slipped it behind a photo frame. Is Jonah home? I asked casually. He's upstairs doing homework, Eli replied. Mom, about last night? I cut him off. It's okay, Eli. I know I overstepped. I just worry, that's all. Our conversation meandered, neither of us addressing the elephant in the room. After about an hour, I made my excuses to leave. Do you mind if I use the bathroom before I go? I asked. Once upstairs, I slipped into Jonah's room. My grandson was hunched over his desk, not even looking up as I entered. Jonah? I whispered. He startled, turning to me with wide eyes. Grandma, what are you doing here? I crossed the room, pulling him into a tight hug. I'm trying to help you, sweetheart. I need you to trust me, okay? Jonah nodded against my shoulder. I quickly placed another recorder under his desk, praying he wouldn't find it. Stay strong, I murmured. I love you. As I left the house, guilt and determination warred within me. What I'd done felt wrong, but the alternative, leaving Jonah in that toxic environment, was unthinkable. The next few days were agony. I jumped every time my phone rang, half expecting Lila to have discovered the recorders. But nothing happened. Finally, a week later, I returned to retrieve them. My hands shook as I downloaded the audio files onto my computer. For hours, I listened. Most of it was mundane homework discussions, TV in the background. But then I heard it. Lila's voice, dripping with venom. You ungrateful little brat, she hissed. After everything I do for you, this is how you repay me? You're worthless, just like your father. Jonah's muffled sobs tore at my heart. I'm sorry, Mom. I'll do better, I promise. You think Grandma cares? Lila sneered. She doesn't. You're just a burden, Jonah. To everyone. I slammed the laptop shut, ball rising in my throat. The truth was worse than I'd imagined. Lila wasn't just cold or strict. She was emotionally abusive, systematically destroying Jonah's self-esteem. As the shock wore off, determination set in. I had my evidence now. It was time to confront this situation head-on, no matter the cost. Jonah's future depended on it. I picked up my phone, my finger hovering over Eli's number. This call would change everything, but I was ready. For Jonah, I'd move heaven and earth. And Lila? She was about to learn that hell hath no fury like a grandmother scorned. My hands trembled as I replayed the recordings for the third time. Each word from Lila's mouth was like a dagger to my heart, confirming my worst fears about Jonah's home life. You're nothing but a disappointment, Lila's voice hissed through the speakers. No wonder your father can't stand to be around you. Jonah's muffled sobs tore at my soul. I'm sorry, Mom. I'll do better, I promise. You think Grandma cares? Lila sneered. She doesn't. You're just a burden, Jonah. To everyone. I slammed the laptop shut, ball rising in my throat. The evidence was irrefutable. Lila wasn't just strict or cold. She was systematically destroying Jonah's self-esteem, isolating him from everyone who loved him. My phone buzzed. A text from Eli. Mom, can we talk? Something's not right with Jonah. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the conversation ahead. Come over, I replied. An hour later, Eli sat across from me, his face etched with worry. I don't know what to do, Mom. Jonah's grades are slipping. He barely talks anymore. Lila says he's just being dramatic, but you know that's not true. I finished for him. Eli nodded, his eyes filling with tears. What's happening to my family? I reached for his hand. Eli, there's something you need to hear. With a heavy heart, I played him select portions of the recordings. Eli's face crumpled as he listened to Lila's venomous words and Jonah's broken responses. No, he whispered. This can't be real. Lila wouldn't. She loves Jonah. This is how she treats him when you're not around, I said gently. Eli, your son is suffering. Eli stood abruptly, pacing the room. How did you get these recordings? Did you spy on us? I met his gaze steadily. I did what I had to do to protect my grandson. This is illegal. Eli exploded. You had no right. I had every right. I shot back. Jonah called me begging for help. What was I supposed to do? Stand by and watch him be destroyed. Eli collapsed back into his chair, head in his hands. I can't believe this is happening. Believe it, I said firmly. Now the question is, what are you going to do about it? He looked up at me, conflict warring in his eyes. I need to talk to Lila. There has to be an explanation. Eli, I pleaded. You heard the tapes. There's no explaining that away. She's my wife, Mom. The mother of my child. I can't just. Can't just what? I interrupted. Protect your son? Be a father? Eli flinched as if I'd slapped him. That's not fair. No. What's not fair is what's happening to Jonah, I retorted. He needs you to step up, Eli. To be his advocate, his protector. And what if you're wrong? Eli challenged. What if this is all some misunderstanding? I leaned forward, my voice low and intense. Then prove me wrong.
But don't you dare ignore this, Eli.
Your son's life, his future, depends on what you do next. Eli stood, his face a mask of turmoil. I need time to think, to process all this. As he headed for the door, I called out, Eli, remember, Jonah is the victim here. Not Lila, not you, and certainly not me. Whatever you decide, put him first. After Eli left, I sank onto the couch, emotionally drained. I'd done what I set out to do, present the evidence to Eli. But would it be enough? Would he find the strength to confront Lila and protect Jonah? My phone chimed with a text from Jonah. Grandma, something's wrong. Dad came home, looking upset. Mom's yelling. I'm scared. My heart raced. Things were coming to a head, and fast. Whatever happened next, I knew one thing for certain. I would do whatever it took to keep Jonah safe, even if it meant tearing this family apart to save it. Jonah's text message sent me into a panic. I grabbed my keys and raced to Eli's house, my heart pounding with every mile. As I pulled up, I could hear shouting even from the driveway. I burst through the front door without knocking. The scene that greeted me was chaos. Lila was screaming at Eli, her face contorted with rage. Eli stood there, pale and shaken, while Jonah cowered in the corner, his hands over his ears. You believe that interfering old witch over your own wife? Lila shrieked. Lila, please, Eli pleaded. We need to talk about this calmly. Talk. There's nothing to talk about. Your mother has poisoned you against me. I stepped forward. That's enough, Lila. This ends now. She whirled on me, eyes blazing.
You.
This is all your fault. You've ruined everything. The only thing I've done is expose the truth, I said firmly. Eli, are you going to stand there and let this continue? Eli looked torn, his gaze darting between Lila and Jonah. I don't know what to believe anymore. Believe your son, I urged. Look at him, Eli. Really look. As if seeing Jonah for the first time, Eli's eyes widened. He took in his son's trembling form, the fear etched on his young face. Jonah, Eli said softly, taking a step towards him. Lila intercepted, grabbing Eli's arm. Don't you dare. He's just being dramatic, like always. Something in Eli snapped. He wrenched his arm free.
No, Lila.
This isn't drama. This is our son, terrified in his own home. Eli, open your eyes, I pleaded. Jonah needs you to be his father, not just Lila's husband. For a moment, the room was silent save for Jonah's muffled sobs. Then Eli straightened, a resolve I hadn't seen in years settling over his features. Jonah, go pack a bag, he said quietly. You're going to stay with Grandma for a while. Lila's face drained of color. What? You can't do that. I can and I am, Eli replied. We need some time apart, Lila. All of us. As Jonah scurried upstairs, Lila turned on me, her voice low and menacing. You'll regret this, Marlo. I'll make sure of it. I met her gaze steadily. The only thing I regret is not seeing through you sooner. Eli stepped between us. That's enough. Lila, we'll talk tomorrow. For now, I think it's best if you stay with your sister. Lila's mouth opened and closed, shock replacing anger. You're choosing them over me? Your own wife. I'm choosing our son, Eli said firmly. And it's about time I did. As Lila stormed out, slamming the door behind her, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. But I knew this was just the beginning. Jonah came downstairs, clutching a hastily packed duffel bag. His eyes were red-rimmed, but there was a glimmer of hope there too. Eli knelt in front of him. I'm so sorry, son. I should have seen what was happening. I should have protected you. Jonah threw his arms around his father, breaking down in sobs. Eli held him tight, his own tears falling freely. I watched them, my heart aching. We had a long road ahead, but for the first time in months, I felt hope. As we left the house, Eli turned to me. Mom, I don't know how to thank you. If you hadn't pushed. I squeezed his hand. You're doing the right thing now, Eli. That's what matters. Driving home with Jonah beside me and Eli following in his car, I knew we were at a turning point. The confrontation had been painful, but necessary. Now came the hard part: healing the wounds Lila had inflicted and rebuilding this fractured family. But looking at Jonah's peaceful face as he dozed in the passenger seat, I knew it was worth it. Whatever came next, we would face it together. And Lila? She was about to learn that messing with my family was the biggest mistake she'd ever made. The days following Jonah's move to my house were a whirlwind of emotions. Eli spent every free moment with us, his eyes constantly darting to Jonah as if afraid he might disappear. The change in Jonah was subtle but unmistakable. His shoulders gradually relaxed, his smile appeared more frequently, and he began to speak up without flinching. One evening, as Jonah was engrossed in a video game, Eli pulled me aside. "Mom, I need to talk to Lila," he said, his voice low and strained. "I can't keep avoiding this." I nodded, squeezing his arm. "You're doing the right thing, Eli. Do you want me to come with you?" He shook his head. "No, I need to do this alone. But can you keep Jonah here tonight? Just in case things get heated." My heart clenched at the implication, but I agreed. As Eli left, I couldn't shake the feeling that this confrontation would change everything. Hours passed with no word from Eli. Jonah had gone to bed, but I couldn't sleep, pacing the living room. Just after midnight, my phone buzzed with a text from Eli. "It's over. Coming back now." Relief flooded through me, followed quickly by concern. What had happened? Eli arrived looking utterly drained, his eyes red-rimmed. Without a word, he collapsed onto the couch beside me. "Eli?" I prompted gently. "What happened?" He took a shuddering breath. God, Mom, it was awful." I confronted Lila about everything: the emotional abuse, the manipulation. She denied it at first, then she just exploded. I listened in horror as Eli recounted the argument. Lila had raged, accusing him of betrayal, blaming me for poisoning their family. "This is your fault, Eli." Eli mimicked Lila's words. "Your mother has poisoned our family. She's turned you and Jonah against me." "What did you say?" I asked, dreading the answer. Eli's eyes met mine, a mix of pain and determination in them. I told her it was over, that I couldn't be with someone who hurt our son like that. I asked for a divorce. The weight of his words hung heavy in the air. I reached out, pulling Eli into a tight embrace as he finally broke down, his body shaking with sobs. "I failed him, Mom," Eli choked out. "I should have seen it sooner. Protected him better." "You're protecting him now," I assured him. "That's what matters." As Eli's tears subsided, a new resolve seemed to settle over him. "Lila threatened to fight for custody," he said. "She said she'd ruin us all if I tried to take Jonah away from her." A chill ran down my spine. "She won't win," I said firmly. "We have evidence of her abuse. We'll fight this, Eli. Together." Eli nodded, exhaustion etched on his face. "I know. It's just, how did we get here, Mom? How did I not see what was happening in my own home?" I had no easy answers for him. Instead, I squeezed his hand. "What matters now is moving forward.
Healing.
Both you and Jonah." As if summoned by our conversation, we heard a small voice from the stairs.
Dad.
Jonah stood there, looking small and vulnerable in his oversized pajamas. Eli opened his arms, and Jonah flew into them, clinging tightly. "It's okay, buddy," Eli murmured. "Everything's going to be okay now." Watching them, I felt a fierce protectiveness surge through me. Lila's threats echoed in my mind, but I pushed them aside. We had a long road ahead: custody battles, therapy, rebuilding trust. But in that moment, seeing Eli and Jonah together, I knew we'd get through it. As the night wore on, with Jonah nestled between Eli and me on the couch, I allowed myself a moment of cautious hope. The worst was over, but the real work of healing was just beginning. Whatever Lila threw at us next, we'd face it as a family, stronger and more united than ever before. The weeks following Eli's confrontation with Lila were a delicate balancing act. Jonah remained with me, while Eli split his time between work, visiting us, and dealing with the impending divorce proceedings. The change in Jonah was remarkable, like watching a flower slowly unfurl after a long winter. One evening, as I was preparing dinner, I heard laughter floating in from the backyard. Peering out the window, I saw Jonah and Eli engaged in an impromptu game of catch, their faces alight with genuine joy. It was a sight I hadn't witnessed in far too long. Later, after Eli had gone home and Jonah was getting ready for bed, I knocked gently on his door. "Can I come in, sweetheart?" Jonah nodded, patting the spot next to him on the bed. As I sat down, he leaned against me, a gesture that made my heart swell. "How are you feeling, Jonah?" I asked softly. "About everything that's happened?" He was quiet for a moment, fidgeting with the edge of his blanket. I feel different, Grandma. Like I can breathe again." His words echoed my thoughts from earlier. "That's good, honey. You know you're safe here, right?" Jonah nodded, then hesitated. "Can I tell you something?" "Of course, anything." He took a deep breath. "Mom, she used to tell me things. About you, about Dad. She said you didn't really love me, that I was just a burden to everyone." My heart clenched painfully, but I kept my voice steady.
Oh, Jonah.
That couldn't be further from the truth. You're Dad, and I love you more than anything in this world. "I know that now," Jonah said, his voice stronger. "Being here, with you and Dad, it's like I'm remembering who I really am. Does that make sense?" I hugged him tightly, blinking back tears. "It makes perfect sense, sweetheart." As the days passed, Jonah continued to open up, revealing more about the extent of Lila's manipulation. It was like watching a weight being lifted from his shoulders with each confession. Eli noticed the change too. One afternoon, as we watched Jonah laughing with a neighbor's kid, something he wouldn't have done weeks ago, Eli turned to me, his eyes shining. "Mom, I can't believe the difference," he said. "It's like I'm seeing the real Jonah for the first time in years." I squeezed his hand. "He's healing, Eli. You both are." Eli nodded, a mix of emotions playing across his face. "I've been thinking about the future, about what's best for Jonah. And," I prompted gently, "I want to fight for full custody," Eli said, his jaw set with determination. "Seeing him here, with you, I realize now how toxic our home environment was. Jonah needs stability, love, support. He needs us." Pride swelled in my chest. "I'm with you every step of the way, Eli. We'll do whatever it takes to keep Jonah safe and happy." That evening, as we sat around the dinner table, a scene that was becoming beautifully routine, Jonah suddenly put down his fork. "Dad?" "Grandma," he said, his voice small but steady. I don't want to go back. To live with Mom, I mean, can I stay here? With both of you." The vulnerability in his eyes nearly broke me. Eli reached out, clasping Jonah's hand. "That's exactly what we want to, buddy," he said. "We're going to make sure you're safe and happy no matter what." Jonah's face lit up with a smile that reached his eyes, a rare sight in recent years. "Really? You promise?" "We promise," I said firmly, including myself in this pact. As I looked at Eli and Jonah, united and healing, I felt a surge of determination. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. Lila wouldn't give up without a fight, but we'd face it together. For the first time in months, I allowed myself to truly believe that everything would be okay. Jonah's words from earlier echoed in my mind. "Grandma, I feel like I can finally breathe here." It was more than just a house. It was a sanctuary where love and healing could flourish. And I was determined to protect it at all costs. The courthouse loomed before us, an imposing structure that seemed to embody the weight of the moment. Eli stood beside me, his jaw set with determination. Jonah, sandwiched between us, gripped our hands tightly. "Ready?" I asked softly. Jonah nodded, his eyes reflecting a mix of fear and resolve. "As long as you're both with me." We entered the building, the click of our shoes echoing in the marble hallway. Our lawyer met us at the courtroom door, her face serious but confident. "Remember," she said, "stick to the facts. The evidence is on our side." As we took our seats, I caught sight of Lila across the room. Her once immaculate appearance was disheveled, her eyes darting around wildly. For a moment, our gazes locked, and I saw a flicker of something, desperation, perhaps, or regret, before her mask of anger slammed back into place. The proceedings began, a blur of legal jargon and testimonies. Eli spoke eloquently about his awakening to Lila's abuse, his voice breaking as he recounted the changes he'd seen in Jonah. When it was Jonah's turn to speak, my heart swelled with pride at his courage. Living with my mom was like drowning, Jonah said, his voice small but steady. But now, with Dad and Grandma, I can breathe again. I feel safe. I feel loved. Lila's outburst came suddenly, her shrill voice cutting through the courtroom. This is all lies. They've turned my son against me. Marlo has poisoned our family. As the judge called for order, I saw the last of Lila's support crumble. Her own sister, seated in the gallery, shook her head in dismay, finally seeing Lila for who she truly was. The judge's ruling came swiftly: full custody to Eli, with supervised visitation for Lila pending completion of therapy and parenting classes. As the gavel fell, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. It was over. We had won. Outside the courthouse, Jonah threw his arms around Eli and me, tears streaming down his face. We did it, he whispered. We're really a family now. Eli knelt down, looking Jonah in the eye. We've always been a family, buddy. Now we just get to be the best version of ourselves. As we walked to the car, I spotted Iris waiting for us, a broad smile on her face. She hugged me tightly, whispering, I'm so proud of you, Marlo. You fought for what matters most. That evening, as we sat around my dining room table, now our dining room table, I looked at the faces of my son and grandson. There were still shadows in their eyes, scars that would take time to heal. But there was also hope and love and the promise of a brighter future. Eli raised his glass in a toast. To new beginnings, he said. And to the strongest woman I know, my mom, who taught me what it really means to fight for family. I felt tears prick my eyes as Jonah added, and to never giving up, even when things seem impossible. As we clinked our glasses together, I was struck by the truth of Jonah's words. We had faced seemingly insurmountable odds, but our love and determination had seen us through. Later, as I tucked Jonah into bed, a nightly ritual I now treasured, he looked up at me with eyes full of trust. Grandma, he said softly, do you think Mom will ever change? I sat on the edge of his bed, choosing my words carefully. I don't know, sweetheart. But what I do know is that you are safe and loved and surrounded by people who will always protect you. Jonah nodded, a small smile playing on his lips. I know. Sometimes the hardest truths lead to the strongest bonds, right? I blinked back tears, recognizing my own words reflected back at me. That's right, my brave boy.
And our bond?
It's unbreakable. As I closed Jonah's door, I found Eli waiting in the hallway. Without a word, he pulled me into a tight embrace. We stood there, holding each other, two generations united by love and the shared experience of overcoming adversity. Our family had been tested, broken, and reforged. We emerged stronger, our bonds deeper than ever before. Whatever challenges lay ahead, I knew we would face them together, a family bound not just by blood, but by choice, resilience, and unwavering love.